In a quiet corner of an ancient manor beneath lush green trees and a misty sky, a sign reading Dieppe Family Manor hung silently above the gate. A solitary figure sat on the steps. The steps of a house, surrounded by the quiet night and a deserted courtyard. The young man looked up at the sky, thinking to himself, I am Tutien, a transmigrator from the modern world. I just found out about the history of the person who shares my name here. A flood of memories revealed a pitiful identity, an unacknowledged illegitimate child, weak and timid, who grew up without a mother, and was even looked down upon by the family head, even worse in this martial world. He had no spiritual root for cultivation, making him someone anyone in the manor could bully. Recently, he had fallen into the water and nearly drowned, which was when the soul of Tutien entered this body. As he was lost in thought, a hand suddenly slammed down on his shoulder. A man with a sneering face leaned down, his voice dripping with mockery. Hey, you bastard! What are you doing here? Thinking about that mother of yours, wherever she is? Two other men gathered around, their disgusting faces looking down at him, laughing. Maybe your mom was just some woman from the streets. That's all. Or she could have been a whore in a brothel. Who knows? While they were still gloating, Tutien suddenly looked up and shouted, Shut your mouths! The leader froze, his face changing in shock. The other two whispered to each other, not believing their ears. No way, did I hear that right? How could this coward have the guts to talk back to us? Tutien stared straight into their eyes, his gaze razor sharp. He growled, You heard me right. Let me say it again for you. Read my lips. He slowly emphasized each word clearly. Shut your mouths. The bully's face contorted with anger and astonishment. You! He roared. Looks like you've got an itch for a beating. Then he grabbed Tutien by the collar and lifted him up. Tutien could feel the powerlessness of this weak body. Though he desperately wanted to fight back, the man was about to strike when he suddenly froze, asking in surprise, What? What are you doing here? A tall figure had suddenly appeared, blocking their path. It was a young girl with a basket of vegetables in her hand. Her expression was resolute as she pointed straight at the bullies and shouted, He is still the son of the family head. If you keep bullying him, I'll report you to the madam. Below her, a line of text appeared, Dieppe Ki Phuong, 16 years old, martial realm cultivation. One of the bullies whispered in the leader's ear, This girl is an apprentice cook, but I hear the madam is very fond of her food. It's best not to cause any more trouble here. The furious leader threw Tutien hard onto the ground before leaving. He didn't forget to turn back and threaten him. You little brat! Don't let us catch you outside. We'll beat you every single time we see you. The other men chimed in with their own threats, and then they all left. Dieppe Ki Phuong gently knelt down, extending a hand to Tutien, who was sitting on the ground, and asked kindly, Are you okay? Looking at the outstretched hand, the residual memories in the body told Tutien that this girl was Dieppe Ki Phuong, who worked in the kitchen. She was the only person in the manor who treated him well, perhaps because her own status was as low as his. As soon as his hand touched hers, a strange light flashed and a mechanical voice rang in his head. Idle female disciple system activated. Tutien was stunned but quickly accepted it. A system panel appeared before his eyes. You can recruit female disciples. When they learn life skills, you will receive experience points. As your disciples' level and your own level increase, you will unlock more disciples and skills. Current number of disciples 1. Novice mission, quickly recruit 1 female disciple with a life skill. He thought to himself, Damn it, even leisure activities can help me level up. He looked up at Dieppe Ki Phuong. The girl, noticing his stare, asked, Is something wrong? You've been staring for a while now. Tutien suddenly realized, A female disciple. Isn't there one right in front of me? He looked straight at her and asked, Do you want to be my disciple? Dieppe Ki Phuong burst out, laughing, her face a picture of disbelief. Huh. Are you crazy? What a weird thing to say. In our current situation, it's hard to say who should be whose disciple, but... She then smiled mischievously. If it makes you happier, then fine. I'll be your female disciple, she waved. I have to get back to the kitchen to work. Then she turned and left. At the same time, a notification panel appeared. Successfully recruited 1 female disciple, Dieppe Ki Phuong. Idle skill, cooking. Instantly, a warm surge of power spread through Tutien's body. Reward spiritual root activated. The moment Dieppe Ki Phuong starts boiling eggs, you will gain experience points. In the steamy kitchen, eggs were boiling, bubbling away in an earthen pot. A woman's voice called out loudly, Ki Phuong, are the boiled eggs done yet? From inside, a busy Kai Phuong replied, They're ready. With that done, I'll bring them right out. From a distance, Tu Tien silently crossed his arms, leaning against a wall. His gaze followed Qifeng's hurried figure as she carried out 8 steaming hot eggs. Let's go. And just as the system said, a stream of +1 experience notifications continuously popped up. Tu Tien smirked with satisfaction. So I really am getting experience points. In the kitchen, Qifeng worked tirelessly from chopping vegetables and stir-frying to plating the incredibly appetizing dishes. Her 2 lazy colleagues stood in a corner whispering to each other. Hey, chef, this kid's a real idiot, isn't she? Taking one person's pay to cook for 3 people. Just let the little fool do the extra work. We don't have to lift a finger and we still get paid. What could be better? At the same time, another notification panel appeared for Tu Tien as the experience points were still climbing. Ye Qifeng's cooking skill has improved. Shortly after, a brilliant golden light enveloped Tu Tien. The system announced, "Congratulations, you have reached the entry level." He laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, keep cooking. Keep cooking. You can even cook for this whole city. Ha ha ha. And yes, just like that, our protagonist has taken his first step on the path to becoming an overlord. A skill panel appeared before him. You can now choose one of the following leisure skills: weaving, painting, music, go architecture, fishing, forging medicine. Tu Tien mumbled, in this world. As long as it's not a direct combat skill, it counts as a leisure skill, huh? He thought for a moment, then decided, well, I'll just pick one at random then. The scene shifts to the peaceful riverbank. Tu Tien, dressed as a fisherman, sat patiently waiting. As time passed, he began to feel bored. Ugh, this is more boring than I thought, and I have to actually catch a fish to get experience, right? It's been half a day and I still haven't caught a single one. Suddenly the water splashed and the fishing rod jerked violently. Tu Tien was startled, his eyes widening in surprise. Oh, a bite! He pulled the rod up with all his might and shouted, "Come on!" With a determined smile, he reached out to grab his prize, but unexpectedly, the fish flew out of the water and slapped him right in the face, just as a cry for help rang out. Help! Tu Tien stood up, his expression a little dazed. Someone who's crying for help at a time like this. He suddenly froze, realizing something. Just now, I think that was my own cry for help. Suddenly, from a dilapidated warehouse nearby, a loud noise echoed out as a figure was thrown violently inside. It was Ye Qifeng. She fell to the floor, the corner of her mouth bleeding, and asked in terror, "What are you people doing?" The thug from that morning appeared with a sinister grin stretching from ear to ear. "This is the price you pay for meddling in our business this afternoon. You kitchen bitch, tonight we're gonna make you pay," he roared. "I'm here to collect." Then he reached his filthy hand towards her. Just then a figure rushed in like a gust of wind. A loud bang echoed, and the thug was sent flying backwards, smashing through the wooden wall. Tu Tien had appeared standing coldly in front of Qifeng, while the other 2 thugs were knocked to the ground. One of them roared in anger, "You bastard! You dare sneak attack our boss!" Tu Tien of the Yi family crossed his arms, feeling the power surging through his body. "Oh, I've leveled up. The progress is so clear, my legs feel much stronger." Another one charged from behind, swinging his fist and shouting, "You dare turn your back on us! You think we're nothing!" But his punch only hit the air. He stared blankly at the empty space in front of him. Where'd he go? Tu Tien had already appeared silently behind him. He marveled at how much his movement speed had increased. The thug sensed the presence behind him. Sweat poured down his back as he screamed internally, "How can he be so fast?" Impossible. The remaining thug saw his comrade taken down and roared, launching a kick towards Tu Tien. "Yeah, you don't go easy on him just because he's the family head's bastard son." The man named Ye Yi also charged in from the other side. Swinging a powerful punch, he yelled, "Yi Bing, I'm already using my full strength." "You don't need to tell me!" Both shouted in unison, confident their pincer attack would leave Tu Tien no room to escape. "This time we're attacking from both sides. Let's see you dodge this." But Tu Tien simply sidestepped. As a result, the 2 thugs crashed right into each other. One took a full elbow while the other received a kick. One of them yelled in panic, "Yeah, Yi, what the hell? Who are you elbowing? And you, who are you kicking?" Before they could recover, Tu Tien spun around and threw a vicious punch. The punch landed right on Ye Yi's weak spot, making him let out a pained cry. A critical hit. "My condolences, unlucky fellow." He clutched his crotch, his face pale and contorted in extreme pain. Terrified, the other 2 helped up their miserable boss and fled, not forgetting to shout a threat over their shoulders, Just you wait. We'll be back and you'll get what's coming to you. Tu Tian turned around, his eyes meeting Ye Qifeng's stunned gaze. She asked, "Are you really Tu Tian?" Still in shock, she mumbled to herself with a look of utter disbelief. Impossible. They're all masters at the entry-level martial realm. Someone who hasn't even awakened their spiritual root couldn't possibly defeat them. And yet his movements just now clearly surpassed the entry level. A flash of utter astonishment lit up her eyes. How could you do this in just one day? She had a brief flashback to their conversation that morning when Tu Tian had asked her to be his disciple and she had jokingly refused. Now, with the truth laid bare before her, she stammered, "So, you had already awakened your spirit root back then? But that's impossible." After a moment's hesitation, Diep Qifeng fell to her knees, her attitude changing a full 180 degrees. Her voice filled with reverence. "Master, please forgive me. Back at the manor I had eyes but couldn't see, and I was disrespectful to you. And today I even troubled you to save me." Tu Tian smiled, offering a hand to help her up. "Get up. Here at the manor, you were the first person who helped me." On the way back, Tu Tian asked her, "People born without a spirit root can never awaken one in their entire lifetime, right?" Qifeng nodded. "At least in the history of the Long Guyan nation. That's how it's always been." Qifeng looked at Tu Tian, her eyes filled with admiration and excitement. "But today, Master, you have broken that iron law. If the manor finds out that the useless trash who's almost 20 and still unwed has awakened his spirit root, their attitude toward you will definitely change completely." Tu Tian scratched his head, looking a little embarrassed by his new disciple's praise. Thanks, I guess." The scene shifts back to the Deep family manor. Just as the two of them stepped into the courtyard, a man in a butler's uniform suddenly appeared, grabbing Qifeng by the ear and pulling hard. Qifeng cried out in pain. "Ah, Butler Trong, that hurts, it hurts!" Butler Trong yelled. "So you feel the pain now, do you? Why didn't you think about that when you were causing trouble? You should have thought of the consequences. Don't think that just because the madam praised your cooking a few times that I, the butler, can't teach you a lesson." He pointed to the second young master's injured servants. He roared, "Look what you've done to the second young master's men!" Just then, a firm hand clamped down on Butler Trong's wrist. Tu Tian said coldly, "Who gave you permission to bully my disciple?" Butler Trong screamed in pain. Ah, it hurts so much. My wrist. It's going to break." "Young Master Tu!" An authoritative and angry voice called out from behind. "How dare you!" An elegantly dressed woman with an icy expression stepped forward. It was the second madam of the Deep family manor, Lu Thi. She glared at Tu Tian. "Wasn't causing trouble outside enough for you. Now you've returned only to dare and strike the butler." Tu Tian was completely unfazed. Pointing at Butler Trong, he said, "Madam, can we please be reasonable for a moment? Outside, your men tried to bully this young lady, and now that we're back here, this butler continued to bully her. I merely pulled his hand away lightly." "What's the big deal?" Butler Trong wailed resentfully. "You call that pulling lightly?" Lu Thai shouted in rage. "You've got a lot of nerve today, haven't you? How dare you talk back to me?" Another voice chimed in from behind. "Mother, don't waste your breath on him. Just throw him straight out of the manor." A young man dressed in fine silks and brocade appeared. It was the second young master Diep Ba Lu Thi's son. He looked at Tu Tian with contempt. "Every day a useless bum like him stays here is another day of disgrace for the Diep family, and now he even dares to hit my men. Just kick him out and be done with it." Lu Thi's face hardened as she made her decision. "No, both of you will have your wages docked for 3 months. As for the rest, we will wait for the family head to return before making a decision." As Tu Tian and Qifeng turned to leave, Butler Truong rubbed his throbbing wrist and muttered with a resentful expression, "Hiss, so painful. That pathetic weakling who couldn't even satisfy himself. And since when did he get so strong?" In a private room, Diep Ba said to his mother with concern, "Mother, we can't just let them get away with this. When has our family ever let anyone walk all over us like this? Besides, the injured servants said that Brat suddenly became an expert fighter. He might have awakened his spirit root. If that's true and the family head finds out, the balance of power in this manor could change." Lu Thi sat calmly, her gaze cold and sharp. "Don't worry. I know that piece of trash could never have suddenly awakened his spirit root. At most, he secretly learned some body cultivation techniques and only managed to strike because those low-level servants weren't paying attention. It's nothing to worry about." She gritted her teeth, her voice turning venomous. Last time we arranged for him to fall into the water, but for some reason he survived. Starting today, have people follow him and see what he gets up to. Well, I can't just throw him out in the open if something were to happen to him. Outside the manor, we can easily make it look like an accident. The next morning, a few lazy cooks were gathered in a corner. One of them said, "What are you all standing around gawking at?" Another guy chimed in, "That little brat said she'd handle all the food for the entire manor by herself today." A third one sneered, "How arrogant. She has no idea what she's getting into. She's just asking for trouble." Inside the kitchen, Chi Fong stood firm, two sharp knives in her hands, her eyes filled with determination, ready for a full day of work. Then she began brandishing the knives at a dizzying speed. Her masterful and precise cuts turned the ingredients into works of art, beginning a spectacular culinary performance. In the kitchen, the two lazy chefs' faces drained of all color. Trembling, they watched Chi Fong's knife dance. What's with this murderous aura? Is she really just cooking? At this rate, I feel like we're going to end up on the menu too. Meanwhile, Tu Tian was relaxing when a series of notifications popped up. Disciple Ye Chi Fong has leveled up to Apprentice Level 4. You have reached the great perfection of the martial realm. Experience points +3/+3. You have broken through a major realm. Additional female disciple slot unlocked. Skill unlocked Iron Stomach. Allows for the digestion of attributes or skills through eating. Cooldown 1 hour. Tu Tian shot up, staring at the system screen with a dumbfounded expression. Oh, did I just break through a major realm? Is this supposed to be impressive, I wonder? His eyes suddenly turned sly, the corner of his mouth curling into a calculating smirk. The breakthrough isn't the most important part. The real prize is this Iron Stomach skill. If eating really lets me digest attributes and skills. Heh. Fellas, I'm starting to smell some serious game-breaking hacks here. Putting his thoughts into action. Tu Tian stepped out of the manor, striding confidently along a stone path under the gentle sun. He stopped in front of an ancient bookstore with a worn wooden sign that read, Bookstore. Stepping inside, Tu Tian glanced over the towering shelves filled with countless martial arts manuals. The old shopkeeper, with a slicked-back goatee, saw him and greeted him effusively, but his tone was dripping with sarcasm. "Oh my, if it isn't young Master Tu of the Yi family. What wind has blown you to my humble little shop?" Tu Tian looked the old man straight in the eye, his face unusually serious. "I want the strongest manual you have here." The shopkeeper paused, sneering inwardly. Isn't this bastard a good-for-nothing in martial arts? What the hell is he doing here, demanding to buy a manual? I bet that fall he took in the water short-circuited his brain. The old man turned and called out arrogantly, "Liu Yunshu, go get him an entry-level martial realm skill scroll." From a dark corner, a young woman appeared. With a cold and elegant demeanor, 17-year-old Liu Yunshu at the martial realm of cultivation placed a thin book on the table. The cover read, "A Beginner's Guide to Qi Cultivation." Tu Tian crossed his arms, his brow furrowed in dissatisfaction. "I already told you. I want the strongest skill." The shopkeeper chuckled dismissively. "If you can master this basic skill within 5 years, you should consider yourself lucky." Without a word, Tu Tian took out several gleaming silver pieces and threw them forcefully onto the table. The shopkeeper's eyes instantly turned into coin shapes, shining brightly as drool nearly escaped his lips in greed. The old man's attitude did a 180-degree turn. He turned to scold his employee with a fawning expression. "Hey, is that any way to speak to young Master Tu? Hurry up and bring out our strongest skill now." Yup, money really works miracles, folks. That attitude changed faster than an ex-girlfriend. Liu Yunshu sighed, looking at Tu Tian with a mix of contempt and weariness. "In all my years, I have never seen someone so ambitious. Yet so talentless as you." She presented a thick manual titled Flying Kick and said coldly, "Here, take it. This is a first realm skill. If you can master it before you die, then come find me, provided I'm still alive." The young woman tilted her chin up and declared challengingly, "If you can do it, I'll do a handstand and wash my hair right in the middle of the street for you to see." Tu Tian raised an eyebrow, confirming with a mysterious smile, "You'd better remember what you just said. The shopkeeper heard you too." "Didn't I say I'd keep my word for life?" Yunshu affirmed, resolutely. He held the manual in his hand, shook it lightly, and said, "Well, why wait that long? Let's settle this right here, right now." "What?" Yunshu exclaimed in astonishment. Before everyone's eyes, Tu Tian opened his mouth wide and shoved the entire manual inside. Both the shopkeeper and Liu Yunshu froze. Their eyes bulged and their jaws dropped in utter shock. What the hell is he doing? Don't tell me he's planning to... He closed his eyes, trying to swallow the thick book down. Yunshu screamed in horror. He actually swallowed it. After a struggle, Tu Tian patted his stomach and let out a satisfied burp. Only the spine of the book remained in his hand. Suddenly, he hunched over slightly, his face a bit pale from the unpleasant taste. Ugh. A little nauseous. Unexpectedly, a wisp of white smoke and energy began to escape from his mouth and pores. A brilliant blue aura erupted violently from Tu Tian's body. It blasted everything around him away. The surging energy enveloped him like a tempest, proof that the flying kick skill was being directly absorbed and converted into his body. Other people's main characters learn with their eyes. This one learns with his stomach. Truly next level. A powerful burst of energy exploded in the middle of the bookstore, sending wooden shelves and papers flying everywhere. Tu Tian felt the power surging beneath his feet. He shot forward like a flash of lightning and exclaimed with excitement, "Whoa, this speed is incredible!" The young man began to perform spectacular leaps, crossing the city's rooftops at a speed that the naked eye could hardly follow. With a gentle yet powerful landing, Tu Tian zipped past Liu Yunshu, who could only catch a glimpse of a blurry shadow. The shopkeeper stood, frozen beads of sweat rolling down his face as he witnessed the terrifying sight. He actually mastered it! This is more unbelievable than my ancestors rising from their graves. How can someone without a spirit root master a first-realm skill that requires such meticulous refinement? Does that mean his physical constitution and chi cultivation are exceptionally high? Could he be some kind of freakish prodigy? Liu Yunshu bowed her head, her voice full of submission before her opponent's unimaginable power. I concede. Immediately after, a wooden tub full of water was brought out. It was placed in the middle of the courtyard. The frantic innkeeper grabbed Liu Yunshu's legs as she was turning herself upside down to fulfill her promise. Miss Yunshu, you mustn't do this. This is completely improper. Then let me go, the stubborn young woman retorted. The surrounding crowd began to buzz with chatter about the unusual bet. What's going on? I heard she lost a bet. She bet that the good-for-nothing without a spirit root couldn't learn the first realm skill, but he ended up mastering it in the blink of an eye. Is something like that really possible? Seeing the girl struggling to hold a handstand over the tub of water, Tu Tian stepped forward and said coldly, That's enough. He looked directly at the upside-down Liu Yunshu and asked a completely unrelated question. Let me ask you something. Do you have any special talents or hobbies? Bewildered Yunshu blinked, staring at the strange man before her. What a weirdo, to ask about something like that right now. She answered hesitantly, I'm not a martial artist, but I do enjoy writing and a bit of painting. Tu Tian nodded, satisfied. Oh, that's enough. In a serious voice, he made an offer she couldn't refuse. Become my disciple, and we'll forget about today's bet. Surprised, Yunshu replied, Okay. But are you planning to teach me martial arts? Tu Tian turned and started to walk away, leaving her speechless with a parting remark, You just focus on your writing and painting. As Yunshu watched his retreating back, she thought to herself, what a strange master he is. Instantly, a system panel appeared with a notification. Congratulations, disciple successfully recruited. Female disciple +1. Name, Liu Yunshu. Cultivation, martial realm. Specialties, calligraphy and painting. Tu Tian looked at the secret manual in his hand, sighing to himself about his limits. I've already digested a few books, but the cooldown for my iron stomach is too long. If only it were a bit shorter. To increase his strength, he began to heartily consume another secret. Manual in the middle of the forest. He was eating a book again. Suddenly, Tu Tian's gaze grew sharp. He sensed a murderous intent approaching from behind. A huge, snow leopard-like demonic beast lunged from the bushes, its sharp claws aimed right at Tu Tian's head. A loud explosion erupted, and the ground where Tu Tian had just been standing was completely torn apart. Thick dust and smoke filled the area. From a nearby thicket, two figures were secretly watching. It was young Master Yeba and an unfamiliar man. The man named Chen Siyu sneered, This guy is so weak. One swipe and it's all over for him. And you had me break the rules to release this minor martial realm demonic beast for this. Yeba replied slyly. Don't worry, Warden Chen. You'll get your money. I won't stiff you. Yeba asked with concern. But how are we going to explain this when we get back? Chen Xiu calmly laid out the plan. We'll just say this demonic beast was unregistered, and that it went on a rampage. You arrived in time to kill it, but unfortunately a passerby was already dead. Who died? A cold voice echoed from right behind them, making both men's faces drain of color as they broke into a cold sweat. Tu Tian was standing imposingly right behind them, and they had no idea when he'd gotten there. Both Yeba and the warden shrieked in terror. Chen Xiu trembled, unable to believe his eyes. This kid, he actually survived. An attack from a martial realm demonic beast without a single scratch. And what's more, he snuck up behind me that fast. And I'm already at the first realm. It takes decades to master a first realm movement technique. Yeba's face went pale as he looked at the warden while Chen Xiu screamed in panic. Are you telling me this kind of footwork belongs to some useless trash? Someone with no spirit root, huh? Yeba could only stammer, yes. Tu Tian glared at Yeba, his eyes burning with rage. Yeba, that time I nearly drowned. That was also your doing, wasn't it? Time and time again you've tried to kill me. Do you have a death wish? A close-up on Yeba's face, now dripping with sweat and contorted with fear as he faced the fury of the man he'd always dismissed as trash. In a panic, Yeba turned and snapped at the warden. Where's the demonic beast? Why isn't it attacking? Stunned, Chen Xiu's gaze shifted forward as sweat started to drip. Not far away, the massive beast lay lifeless on the ground, dead. In just one hit. Suddenly, the ground cracked as Chen Xiu stomped powerfully, kicking up a cloud of dust. He shot forward like a flash, giving him no time to react. Looks like I'll have to handle you myself. Tu Tian effortlessly leaned aside to dodge and said coldly, I hear you're at the first realm, is that right? Beating you should give me a good amount of experience. Chen Xiu immediately unleashed his 10-speed force, swinging his fist as he mocked loudly. What nonsense are you spouting? You only awakened a few days ago, you little punk? It took me 15 years of training to reach my level. You won't even live long enough to know what that's like. With that said, the two charged at each other, trading blow for blow. The sharp crack of their fists and kicks colliding sent oppressive shockwaves through the air. Even as Chen Xiu unleashed a furious barrage of punches, Tu Tian effortlessly parried every single one. Without giving his opponent a chance to breathe, Tu Tian threw an uppercut overflowing with azure chi, smashing it straight into Chen Xiu's face. The force of the punch was so immense it nearly deformed the villain's face. Blood spurted from his nose as he was sent flying like a puppet, with its strings cut, tearing up a patch of earth and rock in the forest. Chen Xiu struggled to get up, his face contorted in pain and disbelief. Damn it! How does this bastard have such a solid martial arts foundation? That scoundrel Yeba dared to lie to me. This level of skill requires at least 15 years of grueling practice. There's no way someone who just awakened a few weeks ago could do this. Tu Tian looked down from above his towering figure, exuding an overwhelming presence. He recalled the basic fist technique manual he had just swallowed and smiled smugly. It seems the manuals I ate today are quite useful. The moves just flow out naturally during a fight. Sensing the immense power gap, Chen Xiu's face went deathly pale. This is bad. I can't beat him. I have to get out of here now. He grit his teeth, mustering all his strength. He poured all his internal energy into his lightness technique. In an instant, he became a blur, shooting through the wind like an arrow and leaving a trail of dust behind him. As he fled for his life, he thought triumphantly, I've created a huge gap in just a flash. No matter how fast you are, it's too late to catch me now. But then Tu Tian's cold voice suddenly rang out from right above him. Where do you think you're going? Chen Xiu looked up in absolute terror. Impossible. Tu Tian didn't waste words, delivering a devastating blow from the sky. The punch slammed him into the ground, creating a horrifying shockwave that carved a deep crater in the earth. The warden collapsed in a pool of his own blood, thinking desperately, Damn it, that punch was too heavy. I'm finished. He hurriedly screamed, begging pitifully, Spare me, young hero. Please spare my life. I'm a court official. If you kill me, you'll be in big trouble. Tu Tian nodded, a meaningful smile on his face. That actually sounds reasonable. Turns out you're a good person after all. Instantly, he vanished. Seeing this, the warden smiled smugly and muttered, His aura is fading. Did I really scare him into running away? Before he could finish his sentence, Tu Tian was back. He watched in horror as Tu Tian took out a set of iron claws. Are those the claws you took from the demon beast? What are you planning to do? I already told you. Killing me will only bring you trouble. I'm saying this for your own good. Tu Tian's eyes glowed with an eerie green light as he enunciated every word. Calling yourself a court official, yet you conspire with that dog Yeba. Plotting murder and releasing a man-eating demon beast? You deserve to die today. Besides, haven't you and Yeba already prepared a script for this? He raised the iron claws, preparing to strike. Let's just say a demon beast killed you, and I just happened to be passing by and conveniently dealt with it. You should be thanking me even in the afterlife. Chen Xiu screamed one last time in a panic. Wait! The scene shifts tonight at the Yi family estate. The second young master Yeba is hiding in his room. He panted heavily while muttering, "If I hadn't realized something was wrong and fled early." His face was still etched with the absolute terror he felt after his accomplice's death. Suddenly, through the round window, Yeba froze when he saw that Tu Tian was already standing there. He was staring coldly at him, his eyes glowing with power. The system panel displayed the words, Level 4 unoccupied. Seeing this, Yeba let out a blood-curdling scream of pure terror. Just then, the second mistress walked in, angrily scolding her useless son. If you hadn't been so lazy your whole life, and trained properly after stealing his spirit root, you would at least be at the second realm by now. She ground her teeth in frustration. Is there any other reason you'd be so scared of that bastard child? He stammered. Don't worry, I've already reported the incident to the authorities. The magistrate's office will charge him with murder soon enough. But she stated bluntly, don't count on it. You've been played for a fool. I've already spoken with the coroner from the Demon Suppression Bureau. He said Warden Chen's body was covered in claw marks, making it look as if he was killed by a demon beast. Mistress Liu's face darkened. She clenched her teeth, her eyes filled with murderous intent. Now it's certain. He has awakened his spirit root, and he possesses extraordinary innate talent. We can't afford to live in this fantasy any longer. We must find a way to eliminate him before his power surpasses even the strongest guards in our estate. Until then, keep a close watch on him. Meanwhile, in his quiet backyard, Tu Tian had come up with an incredibly clever new way to grind for experience. He stared into a basin of water, filled with swimming fish, and muttered, "The system only says that fishing gives experience. It doesn't care where the fish come from. So if I buy fish from the market and then catch them myself, that should count, right? What a legendary loophole. Our boy Tu Tian really is a genius." He sat on the steps and casually dropped his fishing line into the small basin at his feet. A moment later, he easily reeled in a fish. It really works. Tu Tian cheered with delight as the words, Experience +4 appeared before his eyes. A few days later, at the second young master's estate, a servant was reporting the surveillance situation. Yeba asked, confused, "For the past few days, he's just been buying fish from the market and then catching them in his own basin. Have you seen him practicing anything in secret?" The servant replied respectfully, "No, young master. All day long he just hangs around buying fish and then fishing in that shabby courtyard of his. He hasn't left my sight for a single moment." Yeba angrily gritted his teeth, his fists clenched. What the hell is this brat up to? Why is my cultivation progress stalled whenever I'm not training? Yet his realm is skyrocketing even though he does nothing. He must be hiding some dark secret. I will definitely find out. At the same time, Tu Tian received a new notification from the system. The fishing skill has been upgraded to Apprentice. You now have a chance to catch fish with special attributes. The current fishing area no longer provides experience or levels. Please move to a higher-level fishing spot. He wondered, a higher-level fishing spot while deep in thought. While a maidservant ran over holding a letter. "Young Master Tu, a letter for you." Tu Tian happily took the letter, a hint of fantasy blooming in his heart. Someone sent me a letter. Could it be from a girl who has a secret crush on me? But when he opened it, the contents surprised him. Recruitment for the Demon Suppression Division. He crumpled the letter. His gaze turned sharp. Perfect timing. The jailer from the Demon Suppression Division just died at my hands, and now this happens. Even though there's no solid evidence, they'll definitely resent me. It's hard not to connect this to Yeba and his mother, but this is free experience. Delivered right to my door. How could I possibly refuse? A few days later in the backyard, a worried Ye Qifang asked Tu Tian, who was leisurely enjoying his tea. "Master, the selection for the Demon Suppression Division is coming up. Why are you still so calm? Besides, isn't participating in the selection a wonderful opportunity? Why don't you seem happy about it at all?" Tu Tian took a sip of tea and smiled meaningfully. "Think about it. With my status and position in this family, do you really believe that something so good, it could happen to me? When something seems too good to be true, it's usually a trap. Qifeng nodded, showing she understood. You have a point. But then her curiosity got the better of her, and she pointed to the empty space next to Tu Tian. But, like last time, you're pointing and talking to the air again. What are you doing? Tu Tian ignored her question, his expression turning serious. I don't know what kind of opponents I'll face at the Demon Suppression Division. I need to prepare thoroughly. Another notification panel appeared. Ye Qifeng has been upgraded to Spirit Chef. Ye Qifeng's Spirit Root has been unlocked. Unlocked special talent, Bizarre Cuisine. Requirement: teach 4 bizarre cuisine recipes. Once taught, Ye Qifeng can infuse spiritual power into her dishes, granting the eater special effects, such as increased attack defense speed or perception. But as Ye Qifeng levels up, she can create more advanced dishes using rare ingredients. Tu Tian wondered, teach? How am I supposed to teach her now? Suddenly, a strange energy enveloped Tu Tian. He was bewildered. A small orb of light appeared on his fingertip. So this is the skill point I need to transfer. He sat opposite Qifeng, thinking to himself, I don't really know what to do. I'll just pretend. Then he gently touched his finger to her forehead. Instantly, the system announced Bizarre Cuisine has been taught. Qifeng blushed shyly and asked, Master, why did you poke my forehead? Suddenly, her eyes lit up with a verdant energy. A series of recipes appeared in her mind. Spirit Power Braised Beef Tendon Recipe learned. Spirit Power. Vinaigrette Fish Recipe learned. Ultimate Spirit Power. Hot Pot Recipe learned. She leaped up and dashed towards the kitchen, shouting, Master, all these recipes suddenly appeared in my head. I have to go cook them right away before I forget. Meanwhile, another notification appeared for Tu Tian. Disciple Liu Yunshu has been upgraded to apprentice. Unlocked special skill scroll crafting. Liu Yunshu can now create scrolls with special effects. Unlocked camouflage scroll. Using this scroll allows one to blend into the surroundings. Subsystem unlocked. Your disciples can now store their creations in an inventory. Subsystem for you to retrieve. Tu Tian thought with satisfaction, my disciples are all working so hard. Tu Tian stood before his 2 disciples and instructed, that's all for now. Everyone, you may return to your work. He waved goodbye to the 2 girls standing on the stone bridge. Master, please be careful on your journey. After Tu Tian was far away, Qifeng turned and asked Yunshu, why did Master leave empty-handed? Didn't we make all these things? For him to take with him, Yunshu replied, still looking a bit confused. Master said he stored everything in some kind of good box, and that we can also store our future creations in it too. I don't really get it. Master is such a strange person. Finally, Tu Tian arrived before the grand gates of the Demon Suppression Division's headquarters, ready for a new and challenging chapter. Tu Tian looked up at the imposing bronze plaque hanging high above the main gate. On it were carved the powerful words, Demon Suppression Division. Stepping through the gates, the atmosphere became solemn and tense as an elderly supervisor demanded in a low voice, please present your letter of recommendation. Tu Tian calmly handed over the letter. The supervisor took it and carefully examined every character and seal. After a moment of verification, the old man looked up at Tu Tian with a sharp gaze. You are Tu Tian. The young man nodded slightly and replied, that's right. Suddenly, Tu Tian felt a chill run down his spine. He narrowed his eyes, sensing something was wrong. There's killing intent aimed at me. From the shadows, the malicious phantoms of the members of the Demon Suppression Division were whispering, their red eyes filled with hatred. Is this the brat who killed old Chen? That's right. He's the bastard child of the Diep family. He had the gall to kill our comrades. Today he won't be leaving here alive. Just carry out the death sentence on him right here and now. Tu Tian lowered his head in thought. He quickly realized this was a sophisticated trap, surely a rumor spread by Diep Ba and his mother. Even if the Beast Suppression Division has no concrete evidence, they'll definitely take their anger out on me. I've become the enemy of an entire division. Their plan worked. Just as the atmosphere grew as tense as a bowstring, a clear voice rang out from the distance, shattering the silence. Young Master Lian has arrived. A young man with a dashing appearance, with a long sword on his back, strode into the middle of the crowd, making Tu Tian curious. Who's that guy? The friend next to him looked at Tu Tian with a surprised expression, as if he'd asked a stupid question. Is this your first time here? He then enthusiastically explained as an information panel appeared. Lin Trin, 18 years old, First Realm. Let me introduce you. That's the young master of the Lin family. They say he's a true genius. His cultivation time was much shorter than a normal person's, but he reached the first realm at just 16 years old. When Tu Tian saw the character introduction panel from the system, he exclaimed with delight, "Whoa! It's just like the character info panels in those novels." The friend next to him was bewildered. "Huh? What info panel?" Seeing Lin Trin's confident expression, Tu Tian smirked slightly. The Lin family's reputation seems... Before he could finish his sentence, a figure rushed forward like a whirlwind. He shoved Lin Trin aside forcefully. "Get out of the way, you punk!" Tu Tian wondered again. "Who's that arrogant guy?" His friend continued to explain, "That's the young master of the Tian family. Last year, he was the most impressive among the First Realm newcomers. He even hunted a great demon beast and took its spirit bone." Lin Trin, having been shoved away, was indignant. "Ah, damn it, but I can't start a fight here." Young Master Tian flashed a sinister smile, his heart filled with ambition. "Who do these little punks think they are? If I can snatch the spirit bone of another great demon beast this year, breaking through to the second realm will just be a matter of time. Get out of the way, move it." A roar like thunder echoed by his ear, accompanied by the appearance of a hulking giant carrying a massive iron-spiked mace on his shoulder. Young Master Tian, despite his arrogance, turned pale upon seeing this giant, and hastily stepped back to make way. The giant strode forward. Each step he took seemed to crack the ground beneath his feet, creating an incredibly heavy, invisible pressure. Tu Tian couldn't help but be amazed. Who is that guy? Even that arrogant young Master Tian had to step aside for him. His friend replied, "You really don't know. That's someone from the famous Great Spirit Prefecture of the North. Every single one of them is tall and muscular, and he is their most promising disciple in the last 15 years. The giant turned back with a sharp gaze. The friend continued, "He was one of the few newcomers capable of breaking through to the second realm. Last year he was practically unbeatable in the second realm demon beast caves." Suddenly, another announcement shook the entire area. "Miss Trio has arrived!" The giant suddenly froze, beads of sweat starting to fall as he sensed a formidable power approaching. The crowd erupted into chaos, people screaming in terror. This terrifying aura. Could it be a great demon beast, a cloud of pitch-black smoke? Carrying the silhouettes of sharp claws enveloped the area, making everything dim. Tu Tian broke out in a cold sweat, his chest tightening as he struggled to breathe. What is this suffocating pressure? Lin Trin, the so-called genius from before, was now shaking like a leaf, his face as pale as a ghost. "So scary. I want to go home." "This is bad genius, boy." From within the black smoke, a giant white tiger, with eyes as red as blood, appeared imposing and majestic. On the tiger's back was a beautiful young woman with a cold demeanor wearing a red blindfold. The system displayed Trio Vu Hui, heir to the Trio family's beast-taming bloodline's second realm. The scene was so terrifying that all the newcomers panicked and scattered. "Run, a great demon beast has appeared." The giant white tiger let out an earth-shattering roar, causing even the muscular giant from the Great Spirit Prefecture to tremble, sweat pouring down his face from the immense pressure. A close-up of the giant's face now showed only pure terror, his eyes wide as he stared at the ferocious beast baring its fangs right in front of him. The white tiger strode past. Its giant shadow enveloped him, causing him to freeze, not daring to move even a single hair. As soon as the tiger had passed, the First Realm giant's legs immediately gave out. He collapsed onto the stone floor, panting and sighing with relief, knowing he had just escaped the jaws of death. Tu Tian, observing from a distance, silently assessed the situation with a serious expression. "The little tiger I faced before, and is nothing compared to this mount. If this great demon tiger went berserk, it could wipe out all the newcomers here. Even the regular guards would suffer heavy losses." The two of them watched Miss Trio's retreating figure. Tu Tian curiously asked his friend, "Who is this Miss Trio, that she can tame such a terrifying great demon tiger?" An image of a fiery phoenix spreading its wings across the sky appeared in the narrator's story, symbolizing the immense prestige of the overlord family of the South. Other giant mythical creatures like spirit elephants also appeared in the storyteller's memory, testament to this family's absolute dominant power. The friend enthusiastically explained, "That's the True family, the overlords of the South, famous for their exclusive spirit blood-taming bloodline that can control almost any type of exotic beast in the world. They say their family head can even ride a phoenix through a 10th realm demon cave with ease. There were rumors that their bloodline had weakened over the last century. But then this young lady appeared perfectly inheriting the spirit blood and becoming a once-in-a-century genius. He spoke dreamily with heart-shaped eyes and drool running down his chin, completely losing his cool. Now everyone acknowledges that she is destined to become the next 10th realm great grandmaster. Whoa, if someone like me could marry into the True family, I'd probably be laughing even in my sleep. Yep, and there you have it, folks, your typical daydreaming young man. Looking at the bustling crowd queuing up, Tien exclaimed, "Wow, it's so crowded here." The entire selection area was revealed to be incredibly grand, with giant statues surrounding a vast arena where the new cultivators were gathering. Looking up at a towering stone Buddha statue, he gasped in amazement. "There are so many statues of all different shapes and sizes," his companion explained. "They say each statue contains divine power to suppress the demons in these caves," Tien asked in surprise. "Demon caves. So is this a world where humans, demons, and celestial beings all live together?" His friend replied with an obvious look. "What do you mean, live together? Anyway, the main conflict is still between humans and demons. As for celestial beings, they almost never appear." Tien nodded, his gaze drifting towards the dark, deep entrances. He wondered, so which demon beast cave should I enter? The three friends kindly explained, "Normally you have to go see the official in charge to have your realm assessed. Once that's done, you'll be assigned to the corresponding demon beast cave." His friend continued to explain in detail, "Those in the first realm will enter the first realm demon cave for their trial and so on. Those who have reached the second realm will enter the second realm demon cave." Tien pointed towards the gliding figure of Miss Zhao. "So that Miss Zhao will be entering the second realm demon cave, right?" His friend shook his head frantically. "No, she's heading for the third realm demon cave." Tien exclaimed in astonishment as he watched the crimson figure of Zhao Wuhui stride confidently into a cave crackling with terrifying purple lightning. At that very moment, the system panel displayed a notification. "Congratulations, host, for advancing to the minor first realm. Ye Qifang has been upgraded to junior chef. Liu Yunshu has been upgraded to scholar." Leveling up just by taking a stroll? This is basically a public game hack. On the other side, an official worriedly asked his supervisor, "Supervisor, is this really okay? Letting a genius risk entering a demon beast cave one realm higher than her own? Isn't that too reckless?" The supervisor spoke in a deep, mysterious tone. "What do you know? Do you have any idea what it means to be a once-in-a-millennium genius possessing the exclusive spiritual bloodline of the Zhao family? With that bloodline, she can break her limits and directly slay a great demon one level higher than her. But among this year's recruits, she's the only one who can do it." Tien, standing next to Liancheng, remarked in admiration, "Whoa, she sounds really impressive." Liancheng was openly jealous. "It's useless to admire her. Both you and I are only in the first realm. We can only enter the first realm demon cave just to stay alive." Suddenly, the arrogant official from before pointed at Tien and gave a cruel order. You're going into the third realm demon cave too." Tien's gaze suddenly turned ice cold. Realizing he was being blatantly set up, he stared back. Liancheng frantically ran over to intervene. Lord official, you must be mistaken. This young master too, just like me, is only in the first realm. Sending him directly into the third realm demon cave is a certain death sentence. There's no coming back." The official coldly drew his sword from its sheath, his eyes glaring menacingly. "What are you two trying to defy my orders? Recruits who disobey the arrangements of the demon suppression division are to be executed on the spot." Tien calmly placed a hand on Liancheng's shoulder. "Forget it. There's no need to make things difficult for Brother Lian. I'll go all right." The crowd behind them began to whisper pitifully. "That first realm guy is being sent into the third realm entrance. Doesn't that mean he's a dead man for sure? There's never been a precedent for this before. This kid must have seriously offended someone from the demon suppression division." Zhao Wuhui paused briefly, turning her head to look at Tien with a contemptuous gaze. "How bold. What realm are you and what realm am I? How dare you enter the same demon cave as this young lady?" The girl turned away coldly. She left behind a heartless remark. "The people from the demon suppression division can go ahead and notify his family to prepare for his funeral now." Deep inside the dark cave, a giant demon rat with blood-red eyes was sniffing the air aggressively. It clutched a rusty greatsword. It scoured every corner of the cave, searching for the scent of its prey. The demon rat growled an order to its underlings. "Just now I clearly smelled a human. Trash is somewhere around here." His realm is very low, only the first realm. Go and inform the other lesser demons. Find him for me. In a hidden nook, Tu Tien was crouched holding a glowing scroll. He thought to himself, Liu Yunshu's camouflage scroll is quite useful. Although these demon rats have a keen sense of smell, as long as I just keep changing my hiding spot every so often, I can stay hidden for a long time. Tu Tien opened his system inventory, which was filled with sparkling dishes, and smiled smugly. Yeah, Qifeng cooked so many stat-boosting meals again. Like this, I can't even finish it all. Every meal raises my stats by a whole level. In that case, I'll just keep eating until my stat bar is full. 4 days later. My cultivator body glows with a radiant aura, with his stats skyrocketing. Attack plus 50%, defense plus 50%, spiritual power plus 50%. The exhausted young man exclaims, Looks like at this stage this is the limit for how much I can gain just by eating. Along with that came a notification. Cultivation has broken through to the second realm. Ye Qifeng and Liu Yunshu have both leveled up their professions. He rubs his chin, pondering, the good old days, and of leveling up just by lazing around are over. So is it finally time for me to get my own hands dirty? The cultivator firmly grips his short blade, preparing for the hunt. But I can't just rush out there. The horde of minor demons outside are all close to the second realm. Some of them have even broken through to the second realm already. In the end, instead of charging out to fight, the young man casually drops and his fishing line into a puddle right inside the monster cave. He silently resolves, I'll hide in here and fish until my fishing skill stops giving me experience. Only then will I go out. This is truly the pinnacle of trolling, going into a monster cave just to fish. Meanwhile, in another part of the cave, a rat demon is on the move, when it suddenly turns back seething with a murderous aura. It swings its blade, attacking without a single word of warning. The attacking rat demon is stunned to see its own comrade block the blow. Zhao Wuhui stands amidst the demons, her posture proud and cold. On the cracked earth, a nearby rat demon asks in astonishment, Rat 3, what is the meaning of this? Why are you protecting a human? The young lady of the Zhao family tilts her head slightly, her eyes glowing under the red blindfold with a cold, powerful aura. The rat demon trembles. Beads of sweat stream down its face as it realizes something is terribly wrong. Could this be the legendary beast-taming spirit blood? Suddenly, a sharp blade slices through the air, plunging straight into it. Fresh blood splatters everywhere. It screams in panic at the sight of its brothers turning on each other. Rat 4, even you're betraying us! The one who just struck is now dazed like a wooden puppet, completely controlled by Zhao Wuhui's invisible power. She looks at the monsters surrounding her, their eyes bloodshot red. The young lady of the Zhao family remarks calmly, There are quite a few of you, aren't there? She raises a hand to her blindfold, activating her ultimate secret art with a cold smile. Well then, let's dance. Beast Taming Slaughter 6, Frantic Dance. A wave of crimson energy connects to the eyes of the rat demons, instantly driving them into a frenzy as they begin to slaughter one another. A horrific scene unfolds as the monsters raise their blades and cut down their own comrades completely out of control, all under her command. In just a moment, monster corpses litter the entire cave, their blood staining the gray rocks crimson. After the bloody purge, Zhao Wuhui calmly steps over the corpses, her voice full of contempt. These second-realm minor demons, dealing with them is too easy. It didn't even make me break a single sweat. However, a deep, challenging voice echoes from the darkness. Is that so? Then let us, the blind rat brothers, come and see for ourselves what you're made of, little lady. 2 giant rat demons with dark fur and a gloomy aura appear. The system displays their information. Minor demon, second realm, minor accomplishment, the blind rat brothers. Immediately, a black shadow darts forward with the speed of the wind. Leaving blurs on the ground that the naked eye can barely follow, he appears right behind Zhao Wuhui, smirking triumphantly. How about that, my brother and I have the best footwork in this entire second realm. Zhao Wuhui slightly lowers her blindfold, revealing an eye glowing with crimson lightning. You've come at the right time. The rat demon isn't afraid in the slightest, instead mocking her with confidence. That spirit blood of yours is useless against us. Don't forget, we're already blind. Countless intersecting slashes of green energy form a deadly net enveloping the young lady. In an instant, Zhao Wuhui appears to be hit. A trickle of blood seeps from the corner of her mouth, her face showing clear pain from the enemy's vicious attack. The rat demon laughs arrogantly, looking at the blood-drenched iron claws on its hand. So this is the so-called one-in-a-million spirit blood inheritor? Looks like you're not all that great after all. Right, little brother. Suddenly, the young lady's lips curve into a mysterious smile, making the rat demon break out in a cold sweat. So, in your eyes, am I truly dead? He looks down in shock at his own claws, which are piercing through his brother's head. He screams in despair. Little brother, how did this happen? Why did I kill my own brother with my own hands? Zhao Wu Hui stands proudly coldly extinguishing her opponent's last glimmer of hope. Why were you so naive as to think that being blind would make you immune to my control? Did you really think my Zhao family's beast-taming spirit blood could be countered so easily? The remaining rat demon, driven mad by the loss of his brother, charges forward in a suicidal frenzy filled with hatred. You bitch, I'll tear you to shreds. A brilliant turquoise light shines. It explodes in the shape of a star. Slashing against Zhao Wu Hui's barrier, the remaining rat demon stubbornly growls, full of killing intent. So what if you have a special bloodline? If I'm fast enough, I can still chop you to pieces. Suddenly, Zhao Wu Hui's lips curl into a smirk, a look of absolute confidence and pride. I already told you, it's all useless. Brilliant intersecting slashes of turquoise energy instantly shred the monster's body to pieces. The young lady sheathes her blade, her back straight and proud. Amidst the fragments of the monster's corpse that are fading into the air, the battle subsides. Zhao Wu Hui stands alone in the vast cracked cave, surrounded only by a dreadful silence. She silently walks towards the lake, her gaze fixed on the calm surface where an incredible pressure is quietly emanating from atop a towering stone throne. A great demon with the head of a black wolf and dressed in luxurious noble attire appears. Third Realm. Great Demon Special Grade Leader, Lord Rui. He crosses his arms, his cold eyes staring down at her. You're the one who killed my subordinates. My Second Realm. Great Accomplishment Subordinates. It seems that title of once-in-a-century genius actually has some weight to it. But this isn't what the people from the Demon Suppression Division said. The person they wanted me to kill was clearly a man. Oh my. The plot of Diep Ba and his mother has been exposed, everyone. Trio Wu Hui was stunned, fiery anger erupting from behind the icy mask over her eyes. The Demon Suppression Division sent you to kill someone. I can't believe a place that represents justice has fallen so low as to collude with demons like this. The wish-fulfilling wolf. Lord couldn't care less. He stretched out a clawed hand, spiritual energy surging. Enough with the nonsense. To me, killing anyone is the same. He firmly gripped his long spear, which glowed as magical water coiled around the weapon, creating an overwhelmingly powerful aura. With his brocade robes and regal air, he stood imposingly and declared, "Come, let me see if this so-called once-in-a-century genius of yours is really worth anything." Trio Wu Hui clenched her fists, her eyes blazing with lightning and determination. You don't know I'm an expert at killing great demons far above my level. I'll make you kneel obediently. And call me your queen right now. The Wolf Lord didn't say a word. He stomped on the water's surface, launching forward like an arrow splitting the wind. Is that so? A terrifying collision occurred. The wish-fulfilling Wolf Lord thrust his spear piercing through her black tortoise shield and creating oppressive shockwaves. Trio Wu Hui leaned back to dodge. Her eyes tensed as she realized her opponent's speed and power far exceeded her initial assessment. A streak of fresh red blood suddenly sprayed out. The young lady was wounded in the neck. Due to the great demon's incredibly vicious attack, she was thrown back with great force and quickly retreated. Trio Wu Hui gasped for breath, her lightning-filled eyes wide with terror. If the Crown Prince's demon charm hadn't automatically activated and taken the blow for me, I'd be dead already. Why is my spiritual energy having no effect on him? Cornered, she bit her finger, formed a hand seal, and shouted fiercely, "Come forth, great tiger demon!" A giant white tiger exuding a deadly aura, charged straight out of the void, pouncing violently at the Wolf Lord. The wish-fulfilling Wolf Lord easily swung his spear, knocking aside the tiger's claws, and remarked disdainfully, "Impressive. If it were anyone else 2 realms weaker, they would have been dead long ago. I didn't expect you could summon a great demon above your level." He ignored the tiger, turning to aim directly at the weakened girl. "But all I have to do is kill you and it's over. I don't have time to mess around with this beast." Trio Wu Hui's eyes widened as she poured all her strength into her blazing red pupils. "Stop right there, the wish-fulfilling wolf." Lord roared, his own eyes glowing with a deep blue true energy. He was completely immune to her mind control technique. The young lady was stunned, her face showing clear despair as her final trump card failed. Why? Why is my technique completely useless? At that moment, the tiger quickly ran to protect its master, raising its paws to block the great demon's attack. It created a heaven-shaking bang. A loud explosion accompanied by a burst of cyan spiritual energy blew away everything in the vicinity. Trio Vu Hui quietly looked to her side. Her eyes filled with shock as she witnessed her strongest guardian being defeated so easily. The wish-fulfilling wolf lord retrieved his spear, his cold gaze fixed on the figure that had just appeared. To take on a human form and keep up with my speed? Not bad. Among the non-leader great demons, you're the strongest I've ever met. The wish-fulfilling wolf lord's spear strikes is swept across like a storm, forcing the white tiger into a difficult defense. Amidst the thick cloud of dust and rock, the great demon launched a lightning-fast pounce, then leaped back. The wish-fulfilling wolf lord bared his fangs in a cruel smile. His eyes blazed with lightning. The warm-up is over. Now I'll start getting serious. He swung his long spear fiercely, unleashing his ultimate technique, Serpent Shadow Spear, creating streams of deep blue energy that tightly coiled around the pitiful beast. The white tiger was completely overwhelmed. Under the power of the third realm, it roared in pain as its defenses gradually shattered. The great demon closed the distance in a flash, his cold eyes staring directly at the exhausted spirit beast. A horizontal strike with the spear's shaft slammed into the tiger's massive body. He raised his hand, forming a seal, concentrating all his killing intent to deliver the final blow. Die! A massive explosion of spiritual energy erupted at the point of impact. Purple dust and smoke covered the entire battle area. Amidst the rubble, the white tiger lay defeated while Trio Vu Hui watched in shock as her spirit beast was so easily beaten. The arrogant young lady was now filled with bitterness, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. How humiliating! A once-in-a-century genius like me is reduced to such a pathetic state that I have to flee. In her despair, she realized the power gap was too immense. Her demon-taming spirit blood was completely useless against him. Even her strongest spirit beast had been taken down. Calling out other lesser demons would just be feeding them to him. She tried to back away to find an escape route, but a dark shadow quickly closed in. Right in front of her, the wish-fulfilling wolf lord appeared like a phantom, taunting her. "Where do you think you're running? Weren't you the one demanding I kneel and call you queen just a moment ago?" He thrust his spear forward with wind-tearing speed, determined to end the life of the Zhao family's genius. Di Trio Vu Hui squeezed her eyes shut, her face filled with terror. As she faced imminent death, a sharp metallic clang suddenly echoed out. Bright golden sparks flew, blocking her view. A giant turtle shell had unexpectedly appeared, effortlessly blocking the great demon's devastating strike. The wish-fulfilling wolf lord stopped, stunned, staring at the strange obstacle before him. "Isn't this the armored scale fish demon I stationed at the western cave entrance?" He looked up and couldn't help but exclaim in shock, "There's another master hiding here." Tu Tian stood proudly on the water's surface, a large bag of fish slung over his shoulder, his expression as calm as if nothing had happened. Above him, text appeared, "An ordinary old fisherman. Nothing special." Truly the style of a final boss. The scene shifts to outside the cave. The energy vortex of the teleportation gate began to fluctuate violently. The rookies outside were buzzing when they saw the commotion. It looked like someone was about to come out. A brilliant purple light exploded from the cave entrance, drawing the gazes of all the supervising officials. A figure strode out majestically from the middle of the dense smoke and dust. It was Zhao Wu Hui. Her entire body still radiated a faint purple spiritual energy. Her expression was cold, but there was a clear change in her eyes. The crowd began to murmur, "A genius is a genius after all." Not even a third-realm demon cave could stop her. That first-realm guy who went in with her must have become fertilizer in there. Serves that good-for-nothing right for wanting to enter the tiger's den. The dark-robed officials smirked smugly. "Big bro, your plan to kill with a borrowed knife was truly brilliant. Offending the demon suppression division is a death wish. I have 100 ways to make him disappear without a trace." But right after that, Zhao Wuhui suddenly dropped to her knees, bowing her head reverently. Disciple Zhao Wuhui respectfully welcomes Master Tuxian on his triumphant return. The entire square fell silent. The supervising official's jaw dropped in shock, so much so that he dropped his sword. What? The great young miss of the Zhao family is kneeling and calling that good for nothing. Master. Still in shock, he stammered. Ha, ha, ha. Even for the precious daughter of the Zhao family, this is just too crazy. Big bro, look. He pointed towards the cave entrance, which was now emitting a pitch-black aura and rumbling with thunder. Why is such a terrifying killing intent coming from the demon cave? Is some great demon about to break the seal and get out? The glowing turquoise eyes of a giant wolf appeared in the darkness along with a threatening growl. The crowd of guards was utterly terrified, their faces drained of all color. As the monster's silhouette drew closer, the official trembled and screamed, "That's the Rui Wolf Lord, the supreme leader of this cave. Quickly go get an expert for backup, hurry." But when the shadow stepped completely out, everyone was dumbfounded to see Tuxian holding the demon wolf's head and wearing it like a helmet. He scratched his head sheepishly. "Oh, I forgot to take this hat off." Tuxian stood tall amidst the purple aura, carrying the head of the Third Realm boss like it was a toy he had just picked up. Zhao Wuhui remained in her kneeling position, her voice filled with adoration. "Master, may I ask when this disciple can officially begin her training?" The surrounding crowd erupted into chaos. Whispers spread everywhere. "Oh my God, am I dreaming? The young miss is calling him master. How could a First Realm guy walk out with the leader's head? Of the Third Realm like it was a stroll in the park?" An official from the Demon Suppression Division was sweating profusely, his eyes filled with fear and disbelief. "Damn it! What in the world is going on? Everything that's happening right now completely defies all the laws of nature I've ever known. Looks like our boy here is about to be famous, fellas." The Demon Suppression Division official gritted his teeth, his hand tightening on the hilt of his sword full of jealousy. "I don't know what kind of dark arts this brat used. To make the great young miss of the Zhao family protect him and get him out safely, even humbling herself to call him master like that." Rewinding time to about an hour earlier. Inside the dark cave, the sound of brutal clashes began to echo throughout the space, signaling a fierce battle. Zhao Wuhui held her breath, watching from a distance, her eyes glued to the figure of Tuxian facing the great demon head-on. She was so shocked that beads of sweat ran down her face. Her lips trembled as she uttered, Is he really only at the First Realm?" A streak of turquoise energy tore through the darkness, moving so fast the naked eye couldn't follow. The attack shot straight towards the Rui Wolf Lord. It created a powerful impact, sending water splashing everywhere. The continuous shockwaves from the clash caused the ground to crack and rubble to fly, shrouding the two opponents. The Rui Wolf Lord stared at Tuxian, his gaze serious and filled with admiration. "Not bad, brat. You've got some skill. Those folks from the Demon Suppression Division said you were only First Realm. I wouldn't believe that even if you beat me to death." The great demon tensed up, a powerful dark spiritual energy surging around his arm, which was wearing a golden gauntlet. "In that case, I'll end this quickly. He's using his ultimate move right away." A massive pillar of water, accompanied by a heaven-piercing killing intent, erupted and engulfed Tuxian's entire figure. Zhao Wuhui was utterly horrified as she witnessed this. She screamed in despair, "That's the move that killed my great tiger demon in an instant. Even another Third Realm being would find it hard to survive a direct hit from that." The demon wolf's eyes glinted victoriously as he looked into the dense smoke and dust after the attack. Suddenly, a giant turtle shell appeared blocking the attack. This stunned the Rui Wolf Lord. "You dare use my subordinate's turtle shell to block my ultimate move?" Taking advantage of an opening, Tu Tian launched himself high into the air. His figure loomed in the sky like a descending god as he swung his arm, unleashing a powerful strike. The sharp clang of metal rang out, accompanied by a shower of bright sparks. The wolf general was pushed back, breathing heavily but still trying to maintain his arrogant demeanor. "Not bad. You can actually block my ultimate move. You're the first rookie who's been able to fight me on equal footing." Tu Tian landed gently, his cold eyes glowing with blue spiritual light. "What are you talking about? Who's fighting you on equal footing? I hid for 7 whole days before finally coming out, and it wasn't to be on par with the likes of you." The young man reached out and gripped the hilt of his short saber. A stream of deep blue energy began to wrap around his arm, creating an overwhelming pressure. Feeling the sudden surge in power far beyond normal levels, the wolf general began to panic. Sweat poured down his face. A massive explosion of energy erupted at the center point between the two, blowing away everything within a 10-meter radius. The great demon braced himself in utter terror. Impossible. This brat is at the same level as me at best, so how can his energy overpower me to this extent? Tu Tian stood proudly in the middle of the energy vortex, 3 attribute rings clearly visible. My current state is all thanks to eating my fill. Yes, the power of the Saint of Gluttony has officially spoken. And just then, folks, the Wolf General began to swing his spear. The strike was so fast that only an afterimage could be seen tearing through the air as it shot toward his opponent, the spear tip aimed straight at Tu Tian. Instantly, Tu Tian lightly flicked his sword. A deafening explosion erupted as the attack hit its mark. Shards of spiritual energy scattered like brilliant fireworks. The powerful finishing blow hurled the great demon into a deep chasm, creating a shockwave of energy that cleared all the dust for miles. A colossal beam of light pierced through the night. It was a testament to the absolute power of the victor. In the end, the entire area collapsed with a sky-shaking roar, and a thick cloud of dust momentarily obscured everything. When the dust settled amid the desolate ruins and the bottomless pit, only Tu Tian remained standing firm. The Wolf General lay at the bottom of the pit, gasping for breath. His eyes blurred with blood, he whispered in resentment, "Just what in the world are you? How could a rookie possibly defeat me?" In an instant, Tu Tian flew over and slammed a devastating blow onto the monster, muttering with an incredibly nonchalant expression, "I'm just a normal idle guy who likes to go fishing." The impact was so strong that the wolf mask flew off, and water splashed everywhere as the enemy collapsed completely. Zhao Yuhui stood stunned, her eyes wide with astonishment. As she watched the mask fall to the ground, she thought, so the wolf head was just a mask? Tu Tian stood his ground, pointing his spear at the newly revealed figure with sharp, authoritative eyes. "You bastard!" Underneath the mask was the bleeding face of a man. He groaned in pain, looking at Tu Tian. You're human?" Tu Tian asked in a low voice. The pressure from the spear tip kept his opponent from daring to move even an inch. "Why were you pretending to be a demon and hiding in this cave?" The man whispered his explanation, his face full of remorse and despair. "I was originally an official of the Demon Suppression Bureau. I became obsessed with cultivation and stole a secret manual from the library. My only choice was to hide here. I pretended to be a high-level demon to evade capture by the Imperial Court." Tu Tian, showing no mercy, demanded in a firm voice, "What manual? Hand it over, now!" Suddenly, the official began to dissolve into nothingness like dust. He smiled bitterly. "I'm about to die. Just take it yourself. I've practiced it for 5 years and still haven't understood even a small part. It will probably take you another 5 years to achieve anything with it." He turned into a wisp of black smoke and vanished completely, leaving Tu Tian standing alone in the cracked, ruined cave. Instantly, a brilliant system notification panel appeared. It listed a series of incredible rewards. You have received the Wolf King's staff, an item often used for whacking heads. You have received the manual of 1,000 transformations, an extremely difficult text to master. But once mastered, it allows for diverse transformations. New spell unlocked, summon disciple. New spell unlocked, sense and predict attacks. Tu Tian looked at the new skill panel with a puzzled expression. What am I supposed to do with this? The 1,000 transformations is a high-level skill for those in the 4th realm, isn't it? Zhao Yuhai walked over, a hint of arrogance still in her eyes, despite having just been saved from death's door. You may have gotten lucky and defeated a 3rd realm demon leader, but this skill is only for masters at the 4th realm and above. She crossed her arms, looking at him with a superior air. She continued her warning with a very serious expression. If your cultivation level isn't high enough and you try to practice it, you'll waste years for nothing. You even risk suffering from cultivation deviation and having your entire cultivation base crippled. Without a word, Tu Tian opened his mouth and in a flash devoured the entire book, leaving Yu Hui utterly horrified. What the hell are you doing? Are you insane? After finishing his meal, Tu Tian stood there silently. He stared intently at the young lady from head to toe, making her feel unusually flustered. Yu Hui blushed furiously and hastily backed away on guard. This guy? He's staring at me so perversely. He must be thinking impure thoughts. Suddenly, Tu Tian raised his hands to his lips and formed a seal. His mouth uttered a single sharp word, transform. A powerful burst of white smoke erupted and, from inside it, a second Wu Hui appeared with a cunning look and a mysterious smile. The real Wu Hui was so stunned her jaw almost dropped. She screamed in utter panic upon seeing her own copy. This can't be real. He learned the art of infinite transformations in just an instant. Tu Tian in Wu Hui's form ran his hands over his new body to check it out, muttering with satisfaction. Wow, I'm actually taller. The guy even casually touched his chest to compare, curiously remarking, "But it seems like this part is a little smaller than the original. I guarantee you guys this one isn't gay, okay? Where do you think you're touching?" The real Wu Hui, furious with humiliation, swung her hand and delivered a massive slap, sending the fake one flying backward. With a flushed face, she pointed at him and screamed furiously, "And that ugly face of yours doesn't match mine at all." Suddenly, his real face started to show through the spiritual energy. He frantically grabbed his face. I lost my focus for just a second, and my spiritual energy went haywire, revealing my true face. Tu Tian, now back in his original form, casually waved his hand as if nothing happened. "Anyway, that's not important. You can control beasts, right?" Wu Hui answered proudly. "Of course. Our Zhao family has a 100-year history of the beast-taming arts." The young man smirked confidently and made an offer that left the young lady stunned. "Are you interested in becoming my disciple?" Wu Hui immediately dismissed it. Her attitude was extremely harsh and arrogant. "You're dreaming. Even if you were lucky enough to save me, my family is still the overlord of the South, revered by thousands. There's no way I'd let someone like you take advantage of me." The young woman coldly turned her back and walked away, without a second glance. "Let's get out of here quickly. Staying long in this demonic cave, it will only damage the Zhao family's reputation." Tu Tian watched her crimson figure walk away and softly dropped a magical closing line. "So, do you want to be able to summon a phoenix?" Instantly, Zhao Yuhui froze, her face showing clear shock as if he'd hit a bullseye. This pickup attempt was truly next level. Fellas guess if the young Miss Zhao will change her mind. Again. Meanwhile, outside the cave, public opinion was buzzing about the talents of the Zhao family's young lady. Could it be that the Zhao family still isn't satisfied with a genius like her? Another person nodded, confirming the great expectations of this family. "That's right. I heard the head of the Zhao family has very high hopes for Zhao Yuhui, hoping she can tame a phoenix before she turns 20. However, the reality of cultivation is incredibly harsh, which makes them skeptical. To control a phoenix, you need to reach at least the 10th realm. She only has 2 years left to break through from the 3rd realm to the 10th realm. That seems impossible." Back inside the cave, the scenery still bore the marks of the recent battle. Shattered rock fragments were proof of Tu Tian's terrifying power. Returning to the present, Wu Hui looked at Tu Tian with disbelief and screamed, "Do you have any idea what you're saying? Even if you learned the art of infinite transformations in an instant, summoning a phoenix is not something you can joke about." She held up 3 fingers. She seriously explained the impossible conditions for summoning a phoenix. "You must meet 3 conditions. First, perfectly inheriting the family bloodline. Second, reaching the 10th realm. Third, finding and defeating a phoenix in the immortal realm." Tu Tian casually waved his hand and made an offer that would make anyone's jaw drop. "You don't need to go through all that trouble. Just become my disciple and I'll help you raise a chick into a phoenix. See that, guys? Other people's masters teach cultivation. This master teaches how to raise chickens." Wu Hui stood frozen to the spot. The only words running through her mind now were, "raise chickens into a phoenix." Haunting and absurd. Tu Tian added a final persuasive blow. "Anyway, with your abilities, you won't accomplish anything in 2 years. With my help, you might have a chance. Think it over carefully." Wu Hui lowered her head in thought, her mind in turmoil as she recalled his miracles. He reached the 3rd realm in just 7 days. While it took me 14 years of training since childhood just to reach the 2nd realm. That transformation art is incredibly difficult to master. Even many masters at the 10th realm haven't perfected it. And yet he learned it just by swallowing a book. All these unbelievable things are really happening right before my eyes. This person is definitely no ordinary man. Should I take a gamble on him? After that, as everyone knows, the two had a disciple acceptance ceremony that shocked all onlookers. Riding on the back of a wolf beast, they sped away. Zhao Yuhui looked back, waving and shouting, "Master, I'll go back home to report, and after that, I'll begin the training you've assigned me." Ye Xian happily waved his hand and replied, "Go on, go on. The Phoenix is calling for you." Immediately, the system panel displayed brand new information. Ye Xian 3rd Realm, Primary Stage 4. New disciple Zhao Yuhui 2nd Realm. Possesses a rare beast-taming bloodline. Disciple rank Apprentice. The special skill of the taming disciple Zhao Wu Hui can domesticate ordinary animals and nurture them into demonic beasts. The higher Zhao Wu Hui's special skill level, the stronger the demonic beast. The scene suddenly shifts to the deep family estate. A gloomy atmosphere envelops the sealed room as the young man Diep Ba smashes things with a swing of his arm, screaming in a frenzy. It's over! That brat actually came back alive! How could this possibly happen? The woman, his mother, narrowed her eyes in thought. Someone in the first realm managed to survive in a third realm area. Could it be that the eldest miss of the Zhao family really protected him? Diep Ba replied resentfully. That's impossible. Last year my father even proposed to the Zhao family, wanting me to marry Zhao Wuhui. But they rejected us. How could Zhao Wuhui possibly have eyes for that useless cultivator? The vicious woman snapped at her son, her sharp eyes filled with cunning. Why are you panicking? Even if he's really reached the third realm now at most, he's only on par with the guards in our estate. That's all. Unless he's insane, he wouldn't dare fight inside the estate and attract the attention of the authorities and the demon suppression division. He'd be executed on the spot. The young man, still unwilling to accept it, argued back angrily. But we can't just sit here and wait like this. She sneered, her words laced with venom. Oh, there's a way. I'll get some poison from the alchemist on my mother's side and put it in his food. After he dies, we'll feed his corpse to the insects. I didn't think it would have to come to this. But that bastard truly has a tough life, hard to kill. Diep Ba clenched his fists, his face twisted with malice. That's a brilliant plan. Silent and clean. Before he breathes his last, we should drag that bitch of a cook in front of him and make him watch with his own eyes as his lover gets her throat slit right in front of him. But the wheels of justice turn slow but sure. Just as the mother and son were plotting, a strange mosquito filled with a murderous aura quietly landed on the neck of the vicious woman. She seemed to feel an itch, casually raising a hand to scratch, completely unaware that the demon mosquito was plunging its long, sharp proboscis into her, furiously sucking her fresh blood. Instantly, her body shriveled up like a mummy, her life force completely drained in a flash, causing her son to scream in utter terror. Mother! The withered corpse collapsed onto the cold floor. Diep Ba stumbled back in panic, his trembling hand reaching out in vain. Having devoured her flesh and blood, the mosquito suddenly swelled into a gigantic monster, flapping its wings as it shot forward to claim another life. The young man's eyes bulged, his pupils constricting. He let out a desperate shriek. Save! Save me! Karma strikes as fast as the wind, folks! A few days later, the scene shifts to a bustling market. A crowd was gathered excitedly in front of a notice board. A curious person asked, "What's written here?" The notice had a drawing of the demon mosquito. Someone who could read read it aloud. It says here that Diep Ba and his mother were attacked by a demon mosquito right inside their estate, resulting in 3 deaths, including a guard. The entire city is now on high alert to hunt down this demon mosquito. Nearby, 2 young men were whispering to each other. I heard Diep Tien, the one who just joined the demon suppression division, was lucky enough to escape. How? The other guy clicked his tongue and replied, that guy's just got ridiculously good luck. He was out on a mission for the demon suppression division at the time. Otherwise, he definitely would have been in deep trouble if he'd run into a monster capable of defeating even a third realm guard. A middle-aged woman watching nearby couldn't help but exclaim, who would have thought that useless bastard could get into the demon suppression division and even secure such a high position? The person next to her chimed in excitedly. That's not all. The eldest miss of the Southern Zhao family even publicly calls him master. What in the world is going on in this world? At the same time, in a quiet corner, the female disciple, Liu Yunshu, was diligently writing a message with her brush. Master, the rumors about the Deep family incident are spreading all over the city. It's done. The system panel flashed. Liu Yunshu, master of the new magic flying paper calligraphy. You and your disciple can communicate remotely by writing on the scroll made by Liu Yunshu. New magic simulate and decipher. Allows you to sketch objects and analyze magic from scrolls in another location. Deep Tien, holding a calligraphy brush, chuckled with a relaxed and elegant demeanor. Let them talk. Is the amount of spirit bamboo I brought back from the demon cave enough for you to use? Soft strokes of writing appeared on the paper in reply. The paper made from spirit bamboo is much better to use, and we still have quite a lot. But recently, the usual training methods don't seem to be effective anymore. Sketching the chickens, ducks, and fish in the courtyard isn't helping my skills improve at all. The system immediately released a notification. Side quest available body art. Requires Liu Yunshu to complete a sketch of human or demon monster body movements on a scroll. Large fire stew teach Deep Ki Fang to use fire system magic for cooking. Experience can only be gained through these exercises until the disciple advances to the next title. Deep Teen rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Both of my disciples lack real combat experience. It's too dangerous to send them on solo missions right now. For the time being, I'll integrate their training into my own main missions. At the same time, the main mission appeared, Breathless Villagers. Investigate the mysterious events at Tier Village. Villagers are suddenly freezing in place and dying of exhaustion. Find the cause and eliminate the culprit. Receiving the new order, Diep bent his knees and launched himself away. He pushed off a broken tree trunk, rocketing forward at an astonishing speed. In midair, he used a transformation technique, his form changing into an avian beast that tore through the wind, gliding over the dense canopy. At the gate of Tier Village, 2 scowling guards immediately pointed their weapons to block his path, shouting, "Halt! What is your business here?" Diep reverted to his human form. He coldly presented a golden token. Diep of the Demon Suppression Division. I am here to investigate. Seeing the token, the guard's face went pale. He hurriedly bowed low. Please forgive this humble one. Sir, the guard gestured obsequiously. This way, please, sir. Deep clasped his hands behind his back and replied with dignity, Thank you. As soon as he entered the village, a ghostly scene met his eyes. The villagers were glowing with a strange light, standing completely still in various poses. The guard reported in a trembling voice, The villagers here started acting strangely 7 days ago. They suddenly froze on the spot and stopped moving. It's as if they're possessed by a demon. Yexian frowned, immediately activating his ocular art. His pupils flashed with a sharp blue light as he scanned his surroundings, but sweat suddenly beaded on his forehead. A look of shock crossed his face. I can't sense them at all. The one who cast this spell. They must be on a much higher level than I am. Seeing the villagers standing motionless like statues, Yexian was about to reach out and touch one when a panicked guard rushed forward. Stopping him, he cried, You mustn't, sir! Why would you try to touch them directly like that? The guard went on to explain the danger of this evil article. Just by looking at that mother and child, you can see them emitting a strange yellow aura. If you so much as touch them, you'll be instantly paralyzed too. He pointed to a victim's sweaty face and all white eyes, then continued his warning. Even indirect contact, like using a stick or throwing something to knock them over, has no effect. They'll just stay frozen like that, until they collapse from exhaustion and die. Only then does the spell finally release them. Looking out at the fields littered with fallen victims, the guard sighed helplessly. We've already invited the local monks to come before... But they were all helpless. Half of the villagers are already dead. If this continues, the entire village will be wiped out. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Yexian gestured for the guard to leave. All right, I'll take it from here. If there's nothing else, I'll leave you to your investigation, sir. He replied, All right, you can go. After the official's man was out of sight, Yexian formed a hand seal. Brilliant golden spiritual power gathered at his fingertips to activate a summoning spell. With a loud sound, a large puff of white smoke erupted. His female disciple Liu Yunshu appeared amidst the rubble with a dazed look on her face. What's going on? As soon as she saw her master, Yunshu's face turned beet red. She hastily adjusted her clothes and grumbled in embarrassment. Master, next time you summon me, please give me a heads up first. What if I was, taking a bath? Yexian scratched his head and gave an awkward laugh. All right, I get it. Sorry about that. Summoning her at such a sensitive time would be a disaster. Returning to a serious expression, Yexian pointed towards the frozen villagers and said, These villagers seem to be afflicted by some kind of spell. Can you analyze it? Yes, master, Yunshu immediately replied. The disciple began to flourish her calligraphy brush, its graceful, spirit-power-infused strokes flying across the page to search for traces of the evil energy. A glowing magic circle materialized in midair, encircling strange, continuously spinning characters. Yunshu focused intensely, her eyes sharp. Piercing through the fog of the evil art, she shouted, Simulate and decipher! In the blink of an eye, she presented the notebook to her master. Master, I've deciphered it. This is the body-fixing art. Yexian mumbled, The body-fixing art, huh? Yunshu explained further. It's one of the high-level spells. Its effectiveness depends on the caster's level. The farther away they are, the weaker the spell becomes. Flipping to the next page, an image projected by her spiritual power revealed the culprit's location. Based on the analysis, the caster of this spell is most likely at the temple on that distant mountain peak. Yexian turned decisively. Let's go. We're going to pay them a visit. But Yunshu quickly stopped him, her voice filled with worry. But master, if we go right now, we'll be suppressed by his higher realm. The disciple then made a suggestion that was very much in her master's lazy style. Why don't you level up a bit first? For example, you could go fishing like you always do. What a good disciple to so perfectly understand her master's love for farming experience. However, looking at the lives hanging by a thread, Yexian's gaze suddenly turned sharp and resolute. This time we can't wait. I might be able to wait, but the villagers can't. A white bird tore through the wind, soaring across the sky, heading straight for the ancient majestic temple perched atop the high mountain. Through the perspective of his ocular art, the image of a bald monk appeared. A system notification popped up, formidable horned monk Zhao, Grandmaster of the Third Realm. He was calmly sweeping the courtyard despite having caused the horrific disaster below. Suddenly, the monk's eyebrows twitched. He had sensed a strange spiritual power intruding on his territory. With a powerful wave of his hand, he shouted the word, "Halt!" Instantly, the bird flying in the sky was enveloped in yellow energy, went rigid, and plummeted to the earth. A loud explosion erupted as Yexian landed, sending dust and shattered tiles flying across the temple courtyard. The dust and smoke cleared. Yexian, dressed in black robes embroidered with a golden dragon, was kneeling on one knee directly before the feet of the grotesque monk. The monk put his palms together, his voice low and deep, carrying an immense pressure. "Amitabha, I wonder what honored guest has graced this poor monk's humble temple." So Yexian sprang to his feet, his eyes burning with rage as he questioned, "You're the one who harmed the villagers down there, aren't you? Release them from the immobilization spell at once." The monk squinted slightly, a fake smile on his face, his mouth still uttering words of compassion. "Amitabha, patron, you have wrongly accused this humble monk." Without a moment's hesitation, Yexian drew his weapon. At the same time, the system's stats exploded around him. Spiritual power plus 50% attack, plus 50% defense, plus 50%. You just used that exact same immobilization spell. So if it wasn't you, who else could it be? The monk's gentle demeanor vanished. He channeled his energy, his body glowing with a tough, coppery light. Vajra, indestructible body. A head of bronze, a body of iron. Yexian charged forward like a whirlwind, the head of his staff striking directly at the monk's skull, but it only created a shower of sparks and a piercing sound of metal on metal. He was secretly horrified. What? Not even a scratch. Pressing his advantage, the monk unleashed a lightning kick, hitting Yexian's weapon hand and knocking him back. He even dropped his staff. Faced with the enemy's terrifying power, Yexian and the evil monk clashed their fists and elbows, colliding violently in midair, creating invisible shockwaves. The two exchanged blows at dizzying speed, each flurry of punches being narrowly parried by the opponent. The monk narrowed his eyes in appreciation as he witnessed his opponent's skill. "Your martial arts are pretty good, judging by your level. You must have trained hard for decades." Yexian remained silent, his deep blue eyes intensely focused, carefully observing every opening in his enemy's movements. The evil monk sneered, a smug look on his face. "But pure martial arts alone aren't enough to defeat this humble monk." He suddenly pulled back his hand, rapidly forming a seal with his two index fingers and shouting, "Freeze!" A current of golden electricity enveloped Yexian's entire body. He froze stiff in midair, thinking in horror, "Damn it, I can't move!" Immediately, the evil monk threw a punch with the weight of 1,000 pounds, sending Yexian flying. He crashed hard, shattering the wooden structures of the temple. A thick cloud of dust rose from the rubble, completely obscuring the young man's figure. A message talisman from Liu Yunshu flew over. A line of worried text appeared. "Master, are you all right?" Yexian lay motionless in the deep crater, but his hand lightly wrote on the scroll, "I'm fine. That attack was unavoidable. First, we need to time his cooldown. Second, I need to stall for time so you can copy that spell." Yunshu, who was hiding on a tree branch, quickly replied, "Understood. I'll copy his technique as fast as I can. Master, please try to lure him into the open ground." Yexian secretly took out a lush green cake. The system panel displayed green bean turtle essence recovery cake. Ingredients gathered from the demon cave last time were only enough for Ye Qifeng to make 3 pieces. "I hope this is enough." The evil monk slowly approached, his tone dripping with condescension. "There's no need to endure the pain of this mortal world any longer, my friend." He raised a fiery fist, his eyes cold. "Now I will send you on your final journey." A loud explosion rang out. His fist struck a gray stone decoy instead of human flesh. It made his eyes widen. "What?" The monk broke out in a cold sweat, his mood doing a 180-degree turn. "Damn it, I underestimated him. This is a transformation technique. He whipped his head around in panic, feeling a hair-raising killing intent. He's behind me! Ye Xian suddenly appeared like a ghost. He delivered a thunderous slap across the evil monk's face. He quickly grabbed the monk's arm, creating a powerful shockwave. He slammed him to the ground, growling didactically at the hypocrite. A cultivator shouldn't speak such nonsense. Ye Xian followed up with a powerful hook kick, smashing it straight into the evil monk's bronze and iron head, causing the ground beneath him to sink. The monk was sent flying. He tore a path through the temple's roof tiles, sending dust and debris flying. He scrambled to his feet, wiped the blood from his mouth, and silently thanked his defensive layer. Thankfully, I managed to use my Vajra, indestructible body, to block that attack head-on. Giving his opponent no time to breathe, Ye Xian shot forward like an arrow. The two continued to exchange powerful kicks. Ye Xian's left leg collided violently with the monk's glowing protective arm. A massive explosion of spiritual power erupted at the point of impact, throwing everything nearby away. The monk slid across the ground, using his hands to steady himself and break his momentum. His eyes never left his opponent. Instantly, he teleported and swung another blow at the evil monk. Just then, the evil monk flashed a sinister smile, his fingers once again rising. He's preparing to form the seal. It's the same old trick. Can Ye Xian turn the tables, everyone? The evil monk smiled arrogantly, his eyes full of contempt for Ye Xian. I've already told you, no matter how good your martial arts are, you can't defeat me. At that moment, the evil monk's hand suddenly condensed a dark purple ball of energy that crackled with blinding bolts of lightning. You're more stubborn than I thought. I can't hold back any longer. His face lit up in this brilliant electric glow, the corners of his lips curling into a triumphant smile. Utterly enraged by that arrogant attitude, the evil monk gritted his teeth and roared, "You're about to die, and you still dare to smile!" Without further hesitation, he poured all his strength into unleashing his ultimate move, carrying with it the power of annihilation, void purple lightning art. A colossal pillar of purple lightning descended from the sky. It tore through the air with terrifying might. The rolling lightning energy spread out, wiping out every obstacle in its path. It brought down an entire section of the temple courtyard. From a distance, the ancient temple was shrouded in thick dust and smoke torn apart by purple lightning, creating a scene of utter devastation. The sturdy wooden walls of the main hall were also blown away by the shockwave, exploding into smithereens. Thinking his opponent had been obliterated, the awakened monk calmly clasped his hands amidst the falling leaves, closed his eyes compassionately, and uttered, "Farewell, my friend." But just then, a single green leaf happened to touch the hem of his robe, and suddenly, small purple sparks arced from it. The evil monk's eyes shot open, a cold sweat breaking out as he sensed that something was terribly wrong. The real shock came when Ye Xian suddenly appeared right above his head, holding a purple orb of lightning identical to the killing blow from moments before. Talk about giving him a taste of his own medicine. This is awesome, guys. The monk's face twisted with terror and rage. He shrieked, "How are you still alive, and how can you use my ultimate technique?" Without giving his enemy a moment to recover, Ye Xian channeled all his power, swinging a fist cloaked in purple lightning straight down. The heaven-sent punch slammed right into the side of the awakened monk's face. An explosive force pierced through his body. The released lightning created a blinding energy blast, engulfing them both in the center of the storm. The shockwave flung everything nearby away, blasting the evil monk out of the epicenter with unstoppable force. His body shot away like a cannonball, smashing clean through the roof of the temple. He flew high into the air before crashing down into a corner of ruined walls. The evil monk sat slumped on the ground, his body smoking heavily. He was a pathetic sight, coughing violently and spitting out mouthfuls of fresh blood. His eyes showed utter helplessness and confusion. "How? That brat! We only exchanged a few blows, yet he's almost mastered something it took me a lifetime to learn." The scene gently transitions. Ye Xian lands on the ground from midair with an incredibly composed demeanor. His robes fluttered in the wind. Knowing he had lost, the awakened monk lifted his blood-filled eyes to look at the young man, his voice resigned. "Before you finish me, can you tell me, how could you possibly learn my entire ultimate technique after just a few short exchanges like that?" Time suddenly rewinds. Text appears explaining this overpowered feat. A few minutes earlier, the image of Ye Xian smashing the ground to create a dust cloud to buy time reappears. It turns out that while the dust obscured everyone's vision, Ye Xian had opened his virtual system panel. Lines of notifications flashed continuously. New item added to inventory. Skill Simulation Scroll. Skill Purple Void. Lightning Arts. Skill Body Paralysis Technique. Skill Vajra Steel Body. It turns out it was all thanks to his disciple who had been diligently drawing talismans to copy the skills, folks. With a disciple this amazing, who needs to worry about not having martial arts? In a hidden corner on a tree branch, his female disciple Liu Yunshu leaned back to rest, breathing a sigh of relief and wiping away her sweat. Phew! Finally finished drawing them. Back to the system. Ye Xian's finger gently pressed the icon for the simulation scroll to learn all the new skills. After that, the young man casually tossed the pieces of paper into his mouth, chewing them noisily while murmuring his calculations. Activate the Vajra Steel Body to counter his paralysis technique. Now back to the present. Ye Xian shrugged and smiled, intending to start explaining, if you put it like that, then I don't mind telling you. He instantly teleported and launched a palm strike straight into the awakened monk's chest. Ye Xian roared, unleashing a frantic flurry of countless punches. Tell you my ass, just shut up and die. His hands were a blur, delivering a rapid succession of countless punches that left the monk no room to fight back. Even if my purple void lightning arts is still on cooldown, I'll still beat you to death. The awakened monk's jaw went slack as he coughed up a large mouthful of blood. It seemed all his internal organs had been severely damaged. Memories suddenly flooded back and his face contorted in pain and resentment. He held the phantom of a starving newborn in his arms. What did I do wrong? Those villagers at the foot of the mountain had to endure poverty and endless war from one generation to the next. An image of villagers lying dead everywhere, arrows sticking out of their backs, appeared in his memory. The evil monk clasped his hands, tears streaming down his face. I mercifully granted them salvation. What was wrong with that? His stubbornness and hatred consumed the last shred of his sanity. A violent surge of dark purple demonic energy erupted from him. His eyes glowed brilliantly like a demon manifesting as he let out a resounding roar. What did I do wrong? Seeing this, Ye Xian's face went pale. A cold sweat ran down his back as he witnessed his enemy's power surge. He can still move! The awakened monk frantically formed hand seals. A giant, glowing purple magic circle appeared, enveloping his hands. Inside the formation, a stream of purple energy began to take shape. The power exploded outwards. A colossal magic formation spread out, covering the entire temple with malevolent orbs hovering in the air. The system flashed a bright red warning, purple void judgment. Looking up at the sky, which was being consumed by the brilliant purple of the magic circle, Ye Xian was inwardly horrified. He was still hiding a finishing move. His sharp gaze swept over the deep crater that had just been destroyed by that blinding purple light. He's completely vanished. He clicked his tongue, calculating. Outside, Liu Yunshu definitely can't analyze a massive formation like this so quickly. Looks like I'll have to fight and figure out its rules on my own. Suddenly, at the apex of the giant formation, swirling purple incantations gathered into a black hole that unleashed a blinding bolt of lightning. The destructive pillar of lightning slammed down onto the roof of the ancient temple. It sent roof tiles flying everywhere. Without a moment's hesitation, Ye Xian activated his defensive skill. His entire body, encased in a solid layer of spiritual energy, shot forward. Vajra Steel Body. He bravely leaped straight into the stream of demonic energy, diving right into the deep black hole of the formation. In that void of darkness, two enormous fiery purple eyes suddenly blinked open, radiating an overwhelming killing intent. Immediately after, a gigantic fiery energy orb descended mercilessly from the black hole toward him. Ye Xian frowned, cold sweat pouring down his face. He realized the insidious nature of the technique. An attack that combines the paralysis technique and lightning, man, this is gonna be tough, guys. Who could withstand being paralyzed and struck by lightning at the same time? A purple and gold lightning bolt carrying devastating power roared and shot forward like a raging dragon. The impact of its power created a deafening explosion, blasting everything off the temple roof. Ye Xian skidded across the shattered tiles using one hand to slow his momentum. He quickly regained his balance and coldly formed a hand seal. The character for immobilize flashed again. He gritted his teeth, thinking, this formation doesn't have a cooldown. Could he really freeze me indefinitely? Seizing the opportunity, the monk Juezong, now revealed in his true form as a giant sinewy demon, rushed forward, throwing a brutal punch at the immobilized Ye Xian. The devastating impact created a terrifying shockwave that tore through the air. Ye Xian's body was sent flying backward, carving through the atmosphere and leaving long trails of vapor behind him. The armor on his body began to crack and bleed. Ye Xian struggled to stay conscious. I can only use the Vajra steel body for brief moments. Right after breaking the charm, he hovered in midair, surrounded by a barrage of dark orbs aimed right at him, ready to detonate. Ye Xian's face was drenched in sweat as he panted tense, not even a second to breathe. And then the orbs exploded in succession, unleashing massive pillars of violet gold lightning that swallowed Ye Xian whole. The terrifying destructive power made the temple tremble. It shook violently as sections of the building collapsed into dust. Far away outside the formation, the small figure of Liu Yunshu sat on a tree branch witnessing the destructive scene. The disciple's face turned pale with utter panic as she screamed, "Master!" Yunshu gritted her teeth, her brush flying like the wind across the brightly glowing scroll. "Master, just hold on a little longer." "I'm almost done deciphering it. Come on. Yunshu, you can do it." Master is getting completely pummeled in there. The scene below was nothing but a chaotic mess of broken tiles and splintered wood. The scars of the fierce battle were etched into the devastated ground. Amidst the wreckage, a horned demon stood tall. Looking down at the restrained Ye Xian, his voice dripped with insolent mockery. "Go on, keep laughing. Not so funny now, is it?" But contrary to his enemy's smugness, even with blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, Ye Xian curled his lips into a defiant, fearless smile. That smile was like a slap to the evil monk's pride. It made his pupils constrict, his body seething with rage. He raised a massive fist, gathering dark power, and roared, "Last time I was careless, but this time I have you completely sealed." Ye Xian gave a knowing smile. Suddenly he shouted, "Formation!" The evil monk Juezong in his demonic form broke out in a terrified cold sweat. Instantly, an immense pressure, the azure void formation, erupted in a brilliant flash. It completely swallowed the opponent's purple space. Viewed from above, the ground beneath the two of them cracked into powerful concentric circles, proof that a higher-level formation was now active. Juezong shuddered as he realized the bitter truth. You actually used a larger formation to surround mine. The size of a formation and the spiritual energy required are always proportional. Your cultivation level is clearly lower than mine, so how can your spiritual energy reserves surpass my own by this much? He screamed madly in extreme indignation, his greedy and cruel nature laid bare. "I'll kill you, then drain your spiritual root and take it back for a thorough study." Orbs of black fire shot in from all directions as if to tear Ye Xian's body to shreds in an instant. Amidst the barrage of dark energy, Ye Xian stood as still as a statue. His sharp gaze watched his enemy's every move. When the dark orbs were just inches away, he asked calmly, "Is this your final move?" The center of the formation suddenly flared with intense light. A world-shaking torrent of fire erupted right under the evil monk's feet as Ye Xian rapidly formed a hand seal. He softly uttered, "Immobilize," causing the entire exploding space to freeze in an instant. A terrifying explosion of spiritual energy erupted as blinding blue and white light tore through the night. It swept through the entire formation space. The horned demon was frozen in place, his entire body turning a grayish blue, his eyes wide and vacant as he realized he was completely immobilized. The entire mountain peak and temple were instantly enveloped in a massive blazing red dome of energy, marking the absolute effect of the immobilize command. He was locked tight within a motionless shell. Juezong screamed silently, "Why isn't my formation working, and how did I become the one who's paralyzed? Could it be he used his formation to immobilize my formation?" He broke into a cold sweat, sinking into utter panic. "This immobilization effect is terrifying. I can't see, I can't feel, I can't do anything." Just left here, to stew in my own thoughts. Seizing the golden opportunity, Ye Xian channeled his spiritual energy, gathering a pitch-black orb crackling with lightning. He aimed it straight at the evil monk. Ye Xian's eyes were ice-cold, radiating a dense killing intent as the black lightning orb in his hand grew larger and larger, emitting a dazzling light, ready to deliver the finishing blow. Completely blind to the outside world, the demon tried to reassure himself in despair. "I can't see what that brat is doing. I guess he'll use some kind of lightning or fire art on me. A direct hit will injure me badly, but I'm sure I'll still have enough strength to escape." As soon as that rationalization ended, a massive roaring pillar of blue lightning shot out. The evil monk only had time for one final thought. "I think so." Well, this evil monk thought dead wrong. There was nowhere to run. The azure bolt of lightning carrying destructive power tore through the sky, slicing off a huge chunk of the massive solid stone mountain. The entire peak was flattened in an instant. Tiles, rocks, and dust were swept up by the brutal force flying across the horizon. Yexian stood tall amidst the ruins, his black robes fluttering in the wind. The glowing system panel appeared announcing his victory. The evil monk has been eliminated. You have leveled up to the 4th realm initial stage 4. You have learned new skills. Vajra Steel Body. Immobilization. Charm Azure Void Lightning and Azure Void Judgment. You have unlocked a new skill. Master-Disciple Synergy. When activated, if your disciple is nearby, the stat buffs you receive from them will be proportionally enhanced. The minimum enhancement is 30%. The higher the disciple's level, the greater the enhancement. Conversely, the disciple's skills are also similarly enhanced. The effect lasts for up to 30 seconds. However, it consumes a large amount of spiritual energy. Liu Yunshu has been promoted to calligrapher and has unlocked the skill Refined Replication, which allows copied skills to be enhanced, to develop them into more powerful abilities. Leaving the battlefield ruins behind, the scene shifts to a stone bridge crossing a tranquil river where Zhao Wuhui is waiting anxiously. The young lady Zhao stood with her arms crossed, her expression a mix of anxiety and irritation. She sighed. "Why isn't Master back yet?" Hearing the rustling footsteps, Wu Hui was startled and turned around. She saw a familiar figure strolling out of the forest and hurriedly called out. Master Ye Xian approached and asked, "Where's Sister Yunshu?" Wu Hui walked over, answering in a rushed voice, "I've already taken her back to the calligraphy shop." "Why? Why do you seem so flustered? Did something happen?" Wu Hui's eyes showed clear panic. She broke into a cold sweat and hesitantly delivered the shocking news. "The family head. He's back. One storm has barely passed and another is already knocking at our door, folks." The atmosphere suddenly grew heavy. The scene shifts to the front of a grand, imposing gate with a plaque clearly inscribed with the words, Ye Manor. Yexian stood alone, his hands clasped behind his back. Standing before the quiet main hall door, his tall, slender figure exuded a steady aura ready to face the family storm without a moment of hesitation. He lifted his foot, crossed the threshold, and forcefully pushed open the large wooden doors. Light from outside pierced the darkness, signaling the imminent start of a new power struggle. Just as he pushed open the main hall doors and stepped inside, Yexian's expression suddenly became extremely grave. A cold, murderous glint flashed in his eyes. From the dark ceiling, a mysterious black shadow descended with lightning speed. Streaking down like a phantom, the blurry black figure landed right behind a wooden screen, the hem of its cloak fluttering, carrying the heavy pressure of a true master. Instead of retreating to defend, Ye Xian smirked confidently. He gave a slight provocative tilt of his chin. "Testing me?" Without another word, he channeled his power and charged straight towards the screen. Immediately, a barrage of energy blasts shot out like a torrential downpour, forcing Ye Xian to brace himself as he advanced. The attacker was finally revealed. It turned out to be a majestic old man with white hair and a dignified beard. The old man thought to himself with a shocked expression, "So the rumors are true." He awakened his spiritual root after reaching adulthood. His eyes widened, his pupils reflecting Ye Xian's nimble figure. He exclaimed inwardly with excitement, "And his potential is exceptionally outstanding." Retracting his killing intent, the corner of the old man's mouth curled into a sly yet strange smile. The old man raised 2 fingers and formed a hand seal. Dazzling, golden spiritual power expertly and decisively gathered at his fingertips. All the leaf-like energy blasts he had just released instantly shattered into motes of light. They reversed direction, flew back, and were absorbed into the old man's sleeve in the blink of an eye. Standing in the middle of the hall, Ye Xian scratched his head, bewildered, cautiously, looking around, not understanding what the hell was going on. Why did the killing intent suddenly vanish? All of a sudden, the old man spread his arms wide and rushed out with a face as overjoyed as if he'd won the lottery. The system announced, "This is Ye Kai, head of the Yi family level 5 of the Initiate Realm." The old man exclaimed enthusiastically, "My son, it's been so long. Look how much you've grown. I'm so proud of you. Come here and give me a hug." Watching the old man's act, Ye Xian's face was ice cold. He scoffed inwardly. What's wrong with this old man? His attitude did a complete 180-degree turn. A while later, Ye Kai sat comfortably on a wooden chair, stroking his beard and coaxing in a doting tone. "You've had it tough all these years while I was away. What do you want? Gold, silver, precious jewels? A bigger house? Or should I find you a nice young lady?" The old man's face crinkled into a calculated smile, his narrowed eyes hiding the true ambition behind the benevolent facade. Though outwardly calm, Ye Xian's mind was racing. His wife and son just died, yet he acts as if nothing happened. He ignored this illegitimate son for nearly 25 years and is suddenly acting generous. This old man is definitely plotting something shady. What could it be? Realizing his opponent's true intentions, Ye Xian flashed a cunning smile, deciding to beat him at his own game and take everything. "Since you're being so generous, then how about this? Time passes." Ye Xian stood with his arms crossed smugly in a courtyard, flanked by his two beautiful disciples, who were staring with wide-eyed astonishment. He laughed triumphantly. A massive, sprawling mansion appeared before them. With its vast gardens, Ye Xian announced grandly, "From now on, this will be our new home. My side really knows how to bleed that wicked old man dry." Liu Yunshu blinked innocently and asked her master, "But master, where did you get the money to buy such a huge mansion?" "I already sold all the precious materials you brought back from the demon's lair." Ye Xian awkwardly ran a hand through his hair and chuckled, trying to look innocent. "Ah, well, I just borrowed a little from the family head." A flashback scene appears showing the ashen face of the family head, Ye Kai, with veins popping on his forehead as he roared in frustration, "You little brat! I said I would grant your reasonable requests." He stood forlornly in the middle of the treasury, which was now completely empty with chests wide open and not a single coin left. He roared in bitter resentment, "Damn it, I never told you to clean out my entire treasury!" This move must have made the old master so furious he could spit blood. Back in the present, under a clear blue sky and misty majestic mountains, the new mansion of Master Ye Xian and his disciples rested peacefully, enjoying its luxurious tranquility. Oblivious to the world's troubles, the idle Ye Xian was sprawled out on a soft bed, snoring away soundly. Deep in a sweet slumber, he was suddenly jolted awake, throwing off the blanket and sitting up. He heard a frantic call from the courtyard. "Master!" Covered in a cold sweat, Ye Xian stuck his head out the window and complained to Yunshu, who was standing outside. "You nearly scared me to death. There's someone at the main gate." The gate creaked open, and the first thing he saw was a pair of long, slender legs in a vibrant red dress with a high slit. Ye Xian spoke up in surprise. "It's you." Zhao Wuhui appeared with the cool aura of a queen, flicking her hair back as she gave a sassy greeting, "Master." The system panel honored her with a dazzling line of text, "Senior Warden Zhao Wuhui." Ye Xian rubbed his chin, assessing his beloved disciple with amused surprise. Oh, unlike the others who start at the apprentice level, Zhao Wuhui joins directly. As a senior warden, the eldest miss of the Zhao family is truly no pushover, folks. Ye Xian led his two disciples into the spacious courtyard. He gestured towards a magnificent room. "That room is yours." Liu Yunshu curiously stepped closer, staring at the mysterious wooden chest Wu Hui was carrying. "Junior sister, what kind of awesome goodies do you have in that box?" Wu Hai's eyes suddenly glowed a demonic red. She propped her hands on the chest's lid and whispered in an incredibly dangerous tone, "This is the divine beast passed down in my family. A phoenix." Van Thu's eyes flew wide open, a mix of shock and excitement making her shout, "Whoa!" As the lid opened slightly, two sharp crimson eyes appeared from the darkness inside. A murderous aura billowed out, signaling an extremely ferocious creature. Suddenly, a tiny creature shot out. Van Thu jumped back in shock, clutching her chest and screaming in terror. The phoenix was actually just a plump, bewildered chick flapping its wings and cheeping as it flew around chaotically. Seeing her senior sister's pathetic state, Wu Hui covered her mouth and bent over, roaring with laughter. "Ha ha ha!" Wu Hui confidently threw an arm around Van Thu's shoulder, teasing her smugly. "It hasn't even grown all its feathers yet. You're so easy to fool, senior sister." "How can you be my senior sister when you're like this? Maybe you should be the one calling me senior sister instead." While busy bullying the newcomer, Wu Hui happened to glance out the window and notice another presence, exclaiming in surprise, "Whoa, there's someone else in the house." Zhao Wuhui looked at Ye Xian with sparkling eyes full of admiration. She gave a thumbs up and praised, "Master, you are truly impressive." While they were talking, Ye Xian suddenly looked up and noticed the silhouette of a bird gliding past the white clouds in the sky. Not waiting for her master to act, Wu Hai immediately spun around, her eyes flashing with an oppressive crimson light as she gave a domineering command, "Get down here!" A wave of spiritual pressure slammed into the bird, causing it to startle. Its eyes widened in terror, and it completely lost control, flapping its wings frantically. It then stumbled and fell straight to the ground just as commanded. Wu Hui easily caught the creature, stroked its feathers, and then looked up to report, "Master, it's just a carrier pigeon." Taking the small rolled-up piece of paper from the pigeon's leg, Ye Xian opened it and mumbled as he read, "A new mission from the demon suppression squad." Seeing her master was about to leave, Wu Hai picked up her luggage and asked blankly, "Aren't I coming with you?" Ye Xian waved his hand and replied calmly, "Not this time. Just stay home and raise your chicken properly. If you have any questions, ask your two senior sisters." Seeing the arrogant junior sister's crestfallen face, Liu Vanthu, who was standing beside them, couldn't hide her smugness and giggled teasingly. Heh heh! The system panel suddenly appeared, clearly displaying a notification. Mission 1. Clear out the demon dens as ordered by the demon suppression squad. Mission 2. Collect special food, necessary for raising Zhao Wuhui's creature. Following the system's instructions, Ye Xian now stood before a giant dark sinkhole, confirming this is the place. Ye Xian held a vibrant green pearl in his hand and calmly analyzed the situation. This time it's an underwater battle. Fortunately, this identity allows me to use government resources. I've borrowed this water-repelling pearl. Without further hesitation, he leaped down into the deep pit, his figure quickly disappearing into the churning white water. Under the cold water, Ye Xian slowly descended. Air bubbles surrounded his calm face. Before him appeared a massive stone gate deep at the bottom, flanked by two fish demons holding tridents guarding it, very strictly. Suddenly, a fishhook baited with a piece of fresh red meat was slowly lowered right in front of one of the bulging-eyed fish demons. The fish demon with a purple tuft of hair pointed at the hook. He scoffed at his companion. "Look at these stupid humans. After all these years, they still use such primitive methods. To fight us, we've already cultivated into human form. How could we be stupid enough to bite these hooks?" Although he had just heard his companion's lecture, the bulging-eyed fish demon couldn't control his instincts and lunged with his mouth wide open towards the hook. "But this meat smells so good." Snap! The greedy fish demon was immediately yanked upwards by the fishing line, splashing water everywhere. The purple-haired fish demon went ballistic, chasing after him and brandishing his trident, roaring, "You idiot! How could you still get hooked?" He shot upwards to save his companion, but what he saw was the sight of Ye Xian casually holding a fishing rod, having effortlessly caught the other demon. Seeing Ye Xian raise his hand to attack the purple-haired one, swung his trident and sneered, "How ridiculous, trying to use the same old trick again. Do you think I'm as stupid as that moron?" A few seconds later, both fish demons were dangling from two separate hooks. Underwater, the bulging-eyed one cursed, "You moron!" The purple-haired one furiously retorted, "Shut up! Our situations aren't that different, you know." At the same time, the system displayed a dazzling notification. Master Immortal Fisherman, new fishing magic lure. 4. When you equip a fishing rod, the bait on the hook will have a special attraction to underwater demons, increasing the chance of catching them. As Ye Xian continued to dive deeper into the cave, underground the scene suddenly shifted to a view from inside a stone cave. A figure was standing on the shore, silently watching Ye Xian descend. The time rewinds to 1 hour earlier. Right at the edge of the giant sinkhole, the old master Ye Kai stood with a subordinate observing furtively. The subordinate clasped his hands respectfully and reported, "He always manages to defeat opponents who are slightly stronger than him." "Yes, that is the situation, Master Ye." Ye Kai revealed a sinister smile. "No matter. This time I will deal with him personally." The old man's face contorted with wicked ambition, his crazed eyes clearly showing his intent to devour his opponent no matter what. "I must obtain that brat's spiritual root." Back in the present, deep underwater, Ye Xian was swimming and silently formulating a plan. "Let's try using the spells I learned from that demon monk." He released a green pulse of psychic sonar that swept across the dark rock walls and muttered softly, "Not a single demon in sight." Ye Xian continued to swim cautiously, following the cracked cliff walls, ready to face any danger lurking in these cold depths. Cautiously advancing, Ye Xian's hand, glowing with spiritual energy, had just touched a cracked underwater cliff when a strange change suddenly occurred, making him jump in shock. Beads of sweat poured down his cheeks as his pupils contracted, realizing a massive amount of energy was about to erupt from behind the wall. Instantly, an earth-shattering explosion swept through. A fiery light engulfed everything around, creating a violent tremor. The solid cliff wall was shattered into 1,000 pieces by the pressure, forming a massive rolling shockwave. The surging water, directly affected by the blast, threw Ye Xian back like a dry leaf. His body lost its balance, tumbling amidst the crumbling, jagged rocks. His back slammed hard against the rigid ground. Air bubbles streamed continuously from his mouth as Ye Xian winced in pain, dazed from taking the full aftershock of the impact before he could even recover. A giant crimson pincer clamped down on his leg, followed by a booming, mocking voice. "So this method doesn't work either. How easy it is to fall into a trap and lose your life in an instant." But his body suddenly transformed into a piece of fresh bait, floating adrift in the cold water. The giant shrimp demon stared, its rugged face showing clear astonishment. Unbelievable. What's a kind of decoy spell? The scene instantly descended into chaos as countless smaller shrimp demons swam frantically towards the piece of meat. Their leader roared in anger. "Stop! What the hell are you all doing? Get back in position now, that's a decoy." Ignoring the warning, the swarm of smaller shrimp demons, as if hypnotized, swirled together into a crimson vortex, pushing and tearing at each other to get the bait. Seizing the opportunity while the enemy was in disarray, Ye Xian smirked coolly. His fingers lightly formed an immobilization sigil. As soon as the swarm of shrimp demons was locked in place, he drew his precious sword and swung it into the air. A dark purple thunderball swirling with destructive power instantly took form. The thunderball tore through the water, flying straight into the middle of the crimson vortex and emitting countless, pulsing purple lightning bolts that expanded at dizzying speed. A blinding explosion erupted, its brilliant light and raging power roaring as it bleached an entire region of the dark seabed white. The pillar of lightning energy shattered all limits, exploding straight upwards, tearing open the entire underwater cave and creating an incredibly shocking scene as the dust settled. Ye Xian smiled calmly as the system continuously displayed a dozen lines of text showing the experience points he had received. It finally concluded with an awesome notification. Cultivation level has increased from the 4th realm initial stage to the 4th realm minor accomplishment stage. But his satisfaction was short-lived. A compressed water cannonball moving at a blistering speed suddenly shot out from the darkness of the seabed. Ye Xian's pupils contracted, his sharp gaze darting as he reacted to the danger. A fatal blow was imminent. He hastily flipped to dodge just in time. The water cannonball zipped past, slamming into the seabed and blowing up a large rock, sending countless sharp fragments flying. Using the propulsive force from the explosion, Ye Xian flew and landed lightly on a safe ledge, his eyes scanning the depths of the cave to find the one who had just ambushed him. The enemy's true form slowly revealed itself, accompanied by a system notification. Boss Armored Water Cannon Lobster. Cultivation 4th Realm Minor Accomplishment Stage. Look at that enormous steel-plated pincer of his. Truly a tough opponent. But contrary to the usual fear one might expect, Ye Xian lay flat on the ground, observing the last attack with a look of fascination. This magic is really interesting. It looks a lot like the effect of firearms from my world. If I can learn it, it will definitely be incredibly useful. Looks like our sacred protector is itching to steal a new skill again. No sooner said than done. Without further hesitation, his 2 fingers quickly formed a seal aimed straight at the boss. Binding Art. A ring of blue spiritual light instantly appeared. It tightened around the lobster boss's massive armored body. But since their cultivation levels were equal, the boss shattered the binding ring with just a single furious flex. Then it flicked it away. Ye Xian was stunned, a cold sweat breaking out on his temple as he witnessed the enemy's power to break free. So fast! He frowned, glancing down the deep, dark tunnel. He mentally re-evaluated his strategy. This distance is beyond the effective range of my binding art. At that moment, the boss leaped into the air. Raising its cannon pincer, it fired its ultimate skill, the explosive water cannon volley, raining down a storm of water bullets onto the cliff. Ye Xian didn't flinch. He spun around, wielding his sword, unleashing incredibly powerful electric spheres, void thunder bullets. He officially kicked off a fiery magical firefight deep under the sea. The underwater battle erupted with ferocity. Streams of purple lightning and water cannonballs collided repeatedly, creating powerful shockwaves that shook the underwater cliffs. A series of spiritual energy explosions erupted one after another. The brilliant purple light illuminated the dark waters as their attacks clashed. My God, Ye Xian dodged a deadly blow trying to close the distance, but the opposing current made it difficult to move. He secretly observed the enemy, which was fading in and out of view in the distance as a white beam of energy tore through the water. It shot straight towards the cliff and exploded, creating a huge halo of rock dust. Ye Xian somersaulted underwater to maintain his balance, his eyes full of caution. Looking at the boss, which was gradually regaining the upper hand, he gritted his teeth, realizing his disadvantage at long range. Even my Void Thunder arts can't reach it. Determined not to give up, Ye Xian channeled energy into his legs and shot forward like an arrow. I have to close the distance. He dashed through the murky water, ignoring all the explosions happening around him. He aimed straight for the target ahead. A dense web of sword, aura, and lightning crisscrossed, shredding everything in Ye Xian's path as he frantically attacked to clear the way. The lobster boss swung its giant pincer, firing its cannon continuously, but Ye Xian saw through the attack's trajectory and launched a fatal thrust with his longsword. Despite his best efforts, the distance remained a huge obstacle. Ye Xian gritted his teeth in anger. Damn it, I can't catch up to it at all. Suddenly he took out the staff. A stream of blue electricity ran along the weapon. With one hand, he gathered his power, aimed straight at the boss, and unleashed an elongated beam of azure energy that tore through the water. It shot towards the target at an incredible speed. Ye Xian's staff pierced through the water, leaving a long, blinding trail of light aimed directly at the boss's head. It couldn't help but shudder. A shocking explosion detonated right on the boss's armored body. Smoke and blue blood splattered everywhere as the lobster boss coughed up blood. But it still managed an arrogant, disdainful sneer. Just a scratch. You're still too slow, he then shouted, extending it. He stood amidst the water, raising his pincer defiantly. You humans, you never learn, do you? Have you forgotten that none of your magic can touch me? The staff suddenly extended with an unnatural speed, lunging towards its target like a hunting python. Ye Xian crashed into it, creating an earth-shattering shockwave. Its body was powerless to resist. It stared wide-eyed as it realized the feature of that weapon. This staff, it can freely shrink and extend. Not giving his opponent a moment to recover, Ye Xian channeled all his spiritual energy into his palm. A menacing purple orb of lightning materialized, radiating a terrifying pressure as he launched it towards the boss's recoiling trajectory. He unleashed his full power, his strongest technique. His eyes glowed with an incredibly cool demonic purple light. Full power void lightning orb. The energy sphere detonated right above the boss's head. It engulfed him in a brilliant purple aura and relentless bolts of lightning. The destructive force of the attack created a cataclysmic explosion at the bottom of the water, completely swallowing the monster's form. The cliff face crumbled completely. The monster's fresh red blood began to spread, staining the clear water dark. Ye Xian panted, his eyes filled with exhaustion, but also with satisfaction as the system panel displayed a line of green text, enemy defeated. Experience points gained. However, a second later, Ye Xian suddenly froze. He spat out a large mouthful of blood. An excruciating pain racked his body. What the? He floated amidst the blood-filled water, his face contorted in pain and confusion. I got the experience points and confirmation that the monster was dead. It didn't even have a chance to use any skills before it died. So why am I so seriously injured? Ye Xian's body gradually went limp. He fell freely into the depths of the abyss, surrounded by air bubbles and the cold water. Amidst the dark gloom at the bottom, a figure slowly approached the unmoving Ye Xian. An old, triumphant voice rang out. Finally, I have waited for this moment for a very, very long time. The dark figure loomed into view, its crimson eyes blazing with murderous intent, standing proudly before the barely breathing Ye Xian. It's you. That person was the cunning old man who had been watching from the very beginning. System identity confirmation. Head of the Yi family, initial 5th realm, Ye Kai. The old man laughed heartily. I've waited here for far too long, and in the end this finishing blow belongs to me. Ye Xian lay flat on the ground, blood flowing endlessly from his wound. He groaned and asked, I didn't sense any magic at all. How could you land such a fatal blow on me? Ye Kai raised his hand to form a seal. A dark purple spiritual energy swirled wickedly around his fingers. This is my secret exclusive technique, Fatal Twin Kill. He looked at the devastated scene around him with an air of immense satisfaction. I didn't even need to make a move myself. I just had to wait patiently. He explained his vicious scheme in a cold tone. While the two of you were fighting, I secretly placed this curse on you both. The demonic energy from the curse, like invisible chains, wrapped tightly around Ye Xian. This curse binds your two life forces together, but when one is killed, the other will also suffer a corresponding fatal blow. This old man is seriously devious. Our boy walked right into his trap. Ye Kai looked at the still-breathing Ye Xian with surprise. But what surprises me is, you didn't die along with that monster. Your body is quite sturdy. Contrary to the old man's expectations, Ye Xian suddenly broke into a mysterious smile. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes. Oh, so that's how it is. Now I understand. Old man Ye Kai's eyes widened, veins popping on his forehead as he roared in disbelief. Damn it, how can a dying man like you possibly laugh? His hand was shrouded in a wicked purple mist. He gritted his teeth and threatened, let's see if you're still laughing when I rip out your spiritual root. This old man is pure evil folks planning to devour his own son alive. That wave of deep purple spiritual energy rushed forward, but Ye Xian's figure still stood tall. He allowed the evil energy to swarm around him. Old man Ye Kai's face was smeared with blood as he stubbornly muttered with ambition, your spiritual root will definitely be mine. But his outstretched hand only touched a gray, rocky surface. Immediately, dry cracks began to spread everywhere instead of human flesh. Old man Ye Kai stared in horror. Cold sweat dripped down as he witnessed the Ye Xian before him turn into a soulless stone statue.
What is this? It's just a stone statue.
A top-tier bluff from our guy that nearly made the old man's jaw drop, folks. Realizing he had fallen into a trap, the cunning old man's face went pale with worry. His instincts told him the worst was about to happen. This is bad, just as he was about to turn and flee. The real Ye Xian appeared behind him with a cold smile. He raised his hand to form a seal and uttered a single powerful word, bind, completely frozen by a brilliant golden spiritual energy. Old man Ye Kai gritted his teeth, trembling at his opponent's versatility. Transformation arts and binding arts. Just how many types of magic do you know? Ye Xian flicked his hand lightly. He looked at the old man with a mocking gaze as if looking at trapped prey. This little trick always works on schemers like you. Despite being bound, the old man didn't stop scheming. He thought to himself with hatred, how did he dodge my curse? But my cultivation level is higher. I just need to create a distraction and stall for time. I can definitely break this spell. His hand hidden under his sleeve moved subtly with wicked intent. A new plot began to brew. As soon as I break free, I'll immediately cast the curse on him again. He pretended to have given up his eyes, feigning a plea to deceive Ye Xian's attention. If you could just tell me, how did you dodge that attack? I can finally close my eyes and rest in peace. Suddenly, the old man's face twisted as he witnessed the orb of lightning gathering in Ye Tian's hand. Old man Ye Kai's pupils constricted in terror. He screamed frantically, "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" Not giving his opponent a single second to stall, Diep Tien poured all his spiritual energy into a finishing blow and coldly declared, I don't have time for you to stall. Let's end this with one big blow and give you a proper send-off. In the depths of despair facing death, the old Diep Kai screamed in pain and confusion, You bastard! You're too cruel! You're not my son! Who on earth are you? Amidst the blinding flash of lightning radiating from his body, Diep Tien looked at the old man with eyes blazing with spiritual energy and casually revealed, I'm just a soul who worked himself to death, and then just happened to be reincarnated here. A shocking explosion ripped across the water's surface. The system panel simultaneously displayed a notification, Diep Kai has been eliminated. You have ascended to the 5th initial stage, received exquisite bronze lobster cannon, received various types of monster meat, seized Diep Kai's spirit root. Back in the peaceful villa, plates of monster meat were now on the dining table. Freshly cooked and beautifully presented, it gave off a fragrant aroma. Liu Yunshu's eyes sparkled like stars. She couldn't contain her excitement and cheered, Wow, master, is all of this for me? Pointing at the meal, Diep Tien gently instructed his 2 disciples, Go ahead and share these cooking ingredients with Wu Hui. If it's not enough, just get more from the system's inventory. There's still plenty in there. Yunshu pouted sulkily. She didn't want to share her special privileges with her naughty junior sister. Master, you're playing favorites. Why do I have to share the good stuff with her? Diep Tien broke into a nervous sweat and quickly tried to reassure her. Haha, don't worry. I'll help you gather plenty of other ingredients later. Wu Hui crossed her arms looking serious. Acting like a farm manager, she reminded her senior sister, "But first we should focus on raising these chickens. And raising them well." Vanthu sighed dejectedly, looking at the livestock. "But they're still just a bunch of little chicks." Deepteen rubbed his chin, looking towards a corner of the yard. He suddenly remembered something important and asked Vu Hui, "Speaking of the chicks, how have they been lately?" With the experience of a veteran gamer, he gave a cunning smile and made a bold suggestion. "How about we try feeding them a little monster meat and see what happens?" A tiny chick stood bewildered on the stone floor. It tilted its head, looking at the piece of spirit energy-filled monster meat placed right in front of its beak. Suddenly, the master and his two disciples all leaned down to watch. Their eyes were wide with astonishment at the strange sight unfolding before them. Just then, the system displayed a shocking notification: Trio Vu Hui's special skill rapid growth. After eating food containing spirit energy, the spirit pet's growth speed increases by 100%. The chick began to gobble up the meat. Immediately, a brilliant golden light burst forth. It enveloped the tiny chick's body, illuminating Deep Tien's astonished face. From within that dazzling aura, a pair of fiery eyes and the mighty talons of an ancient mythical beast slowly emerged, heralding the awakening of unparalleled power. Powerful torrents of golden spiritual energy swirled around, enveloping the entire body of the chick as it underwent a miraculous transformation right in the middle of the mansion's courtyard. From within the aura, a majestic creature with fiery red plumage and sharp eyes slowly appeared. The system displayed its information: Spirit Pet First Stage Howling Bird. Trio Vu Hui burst out laughing, looking triumphant. She gave a thumbs up, boasting to everyone, "See, a phoenix has appeared just like I said. Ha 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 ha!" But Liu Vanthu scrunched up her face in annoyance. She stared at the oversized bird and remarked sarcastically, "Isn't this just a chicken? That just looks a little flashier." The two started bickering, neither one willing to back down. Vu Hui loudly insisted, "This is a phoenix," while Vanthu threatened to cut off her entire supply of monster meat, forcing Vu Hui to yield. "You're the one who's small, it's still growing? Believe it or not, I'll cut off all your monster meat." Standing by and watching the show, Deep Tien calmly looked at the notifications popping up and thought to himself, "My experience points have gone up. Current realm 5th initial stage. Lately, aside from direct combat experience, the EXP from my disciples has started to slow down." He raised a hand to his chin, thoughtfully planning the next move for his disciples. "It seems just having them grind the usual daily quests is no longer, enough." Suddenly, a line of bright blue text appeared, making Deep Tien's eyes light up. "Unlocked Disciple Profession Quests. Assign quests to the corresponding disciples. Upon completion, the disciple's realm will increase significantly, and you will also receive a huge amount of EXP. Oh, to prepare for the new challenge, a brilliant golden spiritual light suddenly erupted from within the main room. It shone dazzlingly in all directions. Standing in the middle of a mystical energy vortex, Deep Tien officially transmitted a secret art to his 3 kneeling disciples. "The summoning spell has been transmitted. Now all of you can use it." He gave them a serious instruction to ensure the safety of his beloved disciples when they acted alone in the future. "When you go out on your own for your profession quests, if you run into an emergency, you can summon me directly." Liu Vanthu blinked her big sparkling eyes, looking worried. She quietly asked her master, "Master, aren't you going to take us on the profession quests?" Tilted his head slightly, a mysterious look in his eyes, like someone secretly making a plan. I've been a bit busy lately, so I can't go with all of you." The scene changes to a steep mountain path. Deep Tien was walking with a strange man. The man clasped his hands respectfully and said, "Regarding that underwater monster cave from before, thank you." Yeshan slightly raised his hand, casually accepting the thanks with a relaxed demeanor. "Thanks to your intel, brother, I was able to make thorough preparations beforehand." To prevent Ye Kai from launching a sneak attack, the man known as the jailer of the Demon Suppression Bureau, Wu Chengen, explained with a hearty laugh, "Ha ha, it was a small matter. I had already started monitoring that scar-faced guy under him. From the moment he borrowed the water-repelling pearl from the armory, I guessed what he was planning." Amidst the quiet mountain forest, Ye Xian's voice suddenly deepened as he posed a question. "Why are you helping me? We've only met once before. We haven't been in touch since the Demon Suppression Bureau entrance exam." Wu Chengen threw his head back and laughed loudly, mocking his own weakness. "Ha ha ha, you know me. I don't have any real skills, my aptitude is terrible. It took all my effort just to get the lowest position in the Demon Suppression Bureau, so I can only look for the strongest person to back. After his laughter, Chengen's gaze became incredibly serious as he looked straight at Ye Xian. Ever since the day I saw the great miss of the Zhao family, who is so proud and arrogant, kneel and call you master, I knew you were the one I could bet on. Then, as if remembering something, Chengen turned and added a new piece of information. Oh, right. That scar-faced guy suddenly resigned and went back to his hometown. No idea why. Ye Xian smirked slightly, letting out an indifferent comment.
Oh, is that so?
Just then, a flashback began, taking us back a few days. The scene shifts to the front of a dark and cold stone cave. Ye Kai's scar-faced subordinate was trembling, holding his saber in the defensive stance, beads of sweat soaking his face. In the terrifying darkness, he screamed in utter panic as he faced death. Damn it, who the hell sent me on this mountain patrol? How could there be such a powerful great demon ambushing me here? Right behind him, a giant black bear demon with blood-red eyes materialized ominously. A system panel coldly confirmed third-level Great Demon Black Bear Demon. Without giving its prey time to react, the ferocious bear swung its sharp claws, tearing through the air, delivering a bloody, fatal blow that instantly took its enemy's life. However, a closer look would reveal that the bear's blazing red eyes were connected by magical red threads. And in a distant place, Zhao Wuhui had her eyes closed using a mind control technique. Once the target was eliminated, Wuhui's eyes snapped open, flashing with a beautiful, enchanting light. She smiled and reported her success. The job is done, Master. The apprentice next door is just as ruthless as her master. The flashback ends. Ye Xian stood on a mountaintop looking into the distance, thoroughly pleased with how perfectly the plan was executed. Ye Kai's most important eyes and ears have been completely eliminated. At the same time, Xiao Wu Hui, standing beside him, turned to look at her master, her eyes filled with curiosity about the upcoming trip. Master, why have the higher-ups of the Demon Suppression Bureau summoned you this time? Chengen immediately replied, Don't ask me. How would someone of my humble rank be qualified to know about such matters? The man leading the way pointed a finger towards the sky, a mysterious expression on his face. Wait until you meet the great figures up there, then you'll understand. Following the direction of his finger, Ye Xian looked up and saw a gigantic paper scroll covered in talismans winding upwards like a staircase leading directly to an island floating among the 9 layers of clouds. The young man frowned, pointing at the paper strip, and couldn't help but complain. Are you kidding me? We're supposed to go up on this torn piece of paper. Is there no staircase or anything else? The other man calmly replied, No. That's why people like me can't climb up. Hearing this, Ye Xian didn't hesitate any longer. He immediately gathered spirit energy at his feet and stomped down hard, creating a gust of wind that launched him. The powerful thrust tore through the air, sending his body soaring into the sky, rocketing up along the steep incline of the fragile paper bridge. As he zipped swiftly along, Ye Xian stroked his chin, silently assessing it. This piece of paper is actually quite sturdy. Was it made from a material already infused with magical power? Just as he finished his thought, the surface of the paper right under the tip of his foot suddenly glowed brightly. A strange, radiant golden magic seal was unexpectedly activated. Ye Xian was startled, utterly shocked to see a blinding stream of energy shooting straight down at him from above. His survival instincts kicked in instantly, and he flipped backwards in a flash to evade the surprise attack. In the next second, that stream of energy grazed the spot where he had just been and exploded violently, creating a brilliant fiery halo. While tumbling in midair, Ye Xian remained calm, analyzing the situation to himself. I was just wondering what would happen if a demon tried to climb up here. Turns out they've already set up this kind of automatic magic seal as a defense system. But the trouble wasn't over yet. From within the blinding golden light, a flying sword shrouded in an aura continued to materialize. An instant later, a volley of blazing golden flying swords shrieked through the air, raining down like a meteor shower, sweeping along the paper strip straight towards Ye Xian. With no room to retreat, he channeled his spirit energy, crossed his arms to block, and unleashed his defensive technique, Bronze Head Iron Arm. A piercing crash echoed as sparks flew everywhere, blindingly bright as the sharp edge of the flying sword slashed straight into his sturdy metallic arm. Even while using his ultimate defense, Ye Xian still had to grit his teeth and endure sweat pouring down his face as he tried to withstand the terrifying pressure from the sword. The giant paper strip trembled violently. The two edges of the paper were constantly being shredded by sharp sword energy, flying tattered in the wind. While fending them off, Diep frowned, calculating his strategy. This flying sword seal is high-grade stuff. It even has an automatic target locking function. At this rate, if my iron arm technique takes 2 more hits from those flying swords, it'll definitely shatter. I wonder if the immobilization spell can freeze magic. Deciding to risk it, a confident smirk played on his lips. He cast the seal and shouted decisively, "Freeze!" A binding halo of golden energy exploded around him. Deep instantly locked onto the countless flying swords that were charging at him, causing them to halt in midair. Somewhere else, the one controlling the formation, who had been observing in secret, had their eyes widen in shock. They uttered, "How is it not working?" The binding spell overloaded the spiritual energy. The entire flying sword attack instantly exploded into a brilliant ball of fire, breaking the pincer formation. The explosion cast a blinding light across his face. Deep broke out in a cold sweat, completely stunned by the formation. Just at the most critical moment, a slender, authoritative hand reached out from nowhere, grabbing the sword firmly as a cracking sound began to echo. A man with a majestic bearing, his white hair flowing in his long red and black robes, had blocked the sword from behind him. His overwhelming aura was palpable. The system announced the man's identity. Captain of the Demon Suppression Squad, 8th Realm Vuong Tu Nam. Lord Vuong glanced at Diep and complained, "You're truly reckless. I hadn't even come down to get you, and you'd already charged ahead. The seals on this paper ladder are more than enough to handle a 5th Realm Great Demon." Standing up straight, Vuong Tu Nam raised 2 fingers, formed a hand seal, and coolly uttered a single word, "Retract." Instantly, all the killing intent and the shattered fragments of the golden spell sparkled and fluttered around him, enhancing the boundless grace of a great master. Seeing that everything had calmed down, Deep peeked out from behind the paper ladder and asked curiously, "So does that mean all the seals up there have been deactivated?" Vuong Tu Nam turned his face away, his sharp gaze fixed on the space ahead as he gave a short reply, "Unnecessary." As soon as he finished speaking, Vuong Tu Nam took Deep and flew off at a breakneck speed. The giant paper bridge was instantly torn apart by the force of their wake. But Diep was not at all comfortable with this speed. His face contorted as he groaned unintelligibly, "Wah wah!" As he slowly opened his eyes, Diep still thought with a hint of envy, "So an 8th Realm Master can just fly up directly. If only Lu Vanthu were here. He could have copied this move directly." But before they could land, the quiet space in the sky suddenly cracked open, revealing a dark void crackling with eerie bolts of lightning. A crimson blood-like mist poured out from the crack enveloping the two of them. The atmosphere became utterly suffocating. A great demon in the form of a giant demonic ox with towering horns and blazing red eyes filled with malice loomed out from within the blood-red magic circle. Deep pupils contracted and a cold sweat drenched his temples in fear. This terrifying, oppressive feeling, it's exactly like the first time I faced Trieu Vu Hui. He raised his hand, struggling to hold his ground amidst the crushing, eerie mist, clearly feeling the pain. This demonic aura feels like a grindstone, crushing every single one of my bones. Ignoring the presence of the 8th Realm Master, the giant demonic ox extended its dark claws, ripping through space and carrying a deathly aura as it pounced straight for the two of them. Deep was horrified as he saw the claws of death upon him, but his image suddenly blurred due to an extremely high speed. Vuong Tu Nam had grabbed Diep by the collar and flown straight up into the air, helping him dodge the great demon's lightning-fast pounce by a hair's breadth. A blast of white energy tore through the mist, allowing the two of them to land on a section of the paper ladder. Safe and far from this blazing battlefield, Vuong Tu Nam looked toward the spatial rift with a bewildered expression. Strange. Why would a demon transport portal open this close to the demon suppression division? Seeing his boss lost in thought, Diep called out urgently, "Hey, boss!" The young man pointed at the floating monster while yelling against the strong wind. "Now's not the time to be standing there muttering to yourself. That thing is charging up a huge attack." Vuong Tu Nam glanced at the dense black orb of energy that was forming and quietly uttered, "How bizarre." The demonic ox let out a heaven-shaking roar. From its mouth it spewed a blazing dark red energy carrying a destructive power that surged like a waterfall. Facing the terrifying pressure from the opponent's realm, Diep gritted his teeth. A determined look appeared in his eyes. "Damn it, the difference in our realms is too great, but I can't just sit here and wait to die." He poured all of his remaining spiritual energy into his arm. Streaks of purple lightning began to dance wildly around his trembling palm. Diep Tien let out a loud shout to banish his fear. He resolved to execute a life-or-death gamble. Even if I'm just a mantis trying to stop a chariot, I have to give it my all or I'll never be at peace. The energy sphere of the void lightning bullet condensed to its absolute limit, emitting a pressure that warped the space around it. At that very moment, Vuong Tu Nam grabbed Diep Tien's energy sphere and crushed it. Vuong Tu Nam suddenly stepped in front of him, his hand emitting a faint purple smoke. Diep Tien stared wide-eyed. A bead of sweat trickled down his face, which was frozen in shock. He crushed my spell with his bare hands. He bitterly realized the harsh truth. This is the vast gap between three major realms. Our boy must be feeling as small as a grain of sand in front of the big boss right now, folks. Vuong Tu Nam stood with his arms crossed, completely indifferent. He looked at Diep Tien and casually reminded him, using a 5th realm spell to fight an 8th realm great demon, Sai, is no different from an ant trying to climb a tree. Stop wasting your spiritual power pointlessly. Diep Tien yelled back in frustration, well then hurry up and do something. The great demon didn't give the two of them time to argue. It continued its bombardment with a blazing red beam of light that tore through the sky and shot down. A shocking explosion occurred instantly, devastating every nook and cranny of the cliff face with its earth-shattering destructive force. Amidst the thick smoke and dust and the fluttering fragments of rock, Diep Tien struggled to keep his balance within the energy current. A blood-red aura was rampaging wildly. Vuong Tu Nam finally made his move. He raised his hand and formed a seal, and a brilliant purple magic circle filled with ancient runes appeared majestically. Before their eyes, the giant magic circle known as the War God expanded, covering the entire sky, emitting an aura that made all of creation tremble at the epicenter of the formation's impact. It created a world-shaking explosion. Vuong Tu Nam's face remained cold and expressionless. He rotated his palm and shouted, "Redirect!" The destructive energy was completely deflected. It shot back towards the cliffside in a dazzling curved trajectory. Diep Tien's jaw dropped, his eyes shimmering with a mixture of worship and terror. He really sent that attack flying. The deflected attack slammed straight into the rock cliff, creating a ferocious blood-red explosion that stained the entire area crimson deep within the silent forest at the foot of the mountain. A small, bewildered rabbit looked up at the fireball exploding, illuminating the entire horizon. A pair of giant, blazing red eyes appeared amidst the thick smoke and dust, signaling that the great demon's wrath had not ended in the slightest. The blinding light from the explosion consumed the entire mountain forest landscape, turning everything before them white. A circular shockwave erupted from the blast. It crushed everything within a radius of several miles into flat land. White smoke and rock dust billowed up from the devastated valley, creating a chillingly desolate scene. Standing on the cliff top, looking down at the perfect crescent-shaped crater that had just been created by the blow, Diep Tien was so terrified he was speechless. Is this real? Diep Tien stood looking at the ruins, a chill running down his spine. He thought to himself, it actually flattened several mountains. This power is no different from a nuclear bomb, and I was delusional enough to think I could face it head-on with my lightning and fire magic. After being hit by the counterattack, the great demon's breathing became heavy and labored. White smoke puffed from its nostrils, weary and resigned. The giant shadow of the evil ox gradually faded into the mist. All that remained were its crimson eyes full of hatred retreating deep into the void. The spatial rift began to shrink before closing completely, returning a false sense of peace to the sky. Diep Tien trembled, pointing a finger at the empty space. His voice was still filled with shock. That demon was forced to retreat. Looking at Vuong Tu Nam's indifferent back, Diep Tien silently assessed him. This man is absurdly strong. He could probably destroy an entire major city by himself. In contrast, Vuong Tu Nam was filled with suspicion. Retreating so hastily, could it be that his purpose today was merely to test the strength of a demon subjugator? After the battle, the scene shifts to the majestic capital city with its magnificent palaces. Hidden behind towering city walls inside the Great Hall, rows of vermilion pillars gilded with gold and hanging silk curtains created a solemn, almost suffocating atmosphere. Diep Tien strode alone down the long, winding red carpet leading straight to the throne. His figure seemed tiny in this vast space. The young man walked while muttering and complaining to himself. That guy Vuong Tu Nam, he just had to insist that I come in here alone. A hall this big? and there's not a single soul in sight. Suddenly, a blinding golden light appeared above the throne, its rays twisting like flying dragons and dancing phoenixes. A slender, graceful hand holding a paper fan gently opened it, releasing powerful golden embers. The image of an exquisitely crafted golden crown slowly came into view. It glittered under the mystical light of the great hall. Empress Liu Yunshu of the Dragon Origin Kingdom appeared sitting in a relaxed yet oppressive posture. Behind her, her information panel clearly displayed her cultivation realm, another ridiculously overpowered character with a level that can't even be measured. Deepteen stared at the brightly shining name and was inwardly astonished. The color of this name. It's the color reserved for the supremely powerful. A mysterious concept suddenly appeared in his mind, Dragon's Word. A memory surfaced. In a quiet room, his master sat by the tea table, gently reminding him, if you want to know how formidable the strongest person in this nation is, you must experience the exclusive bloodline magic of the Dragon Soul Imperial family. The still naive Deepteen at the time asked in return, is it really that amazing? She explained in a grave voice, this bloodline magic has turned the tides of countless battles. The moment they open their golden mouths, all living things must kneel and submit. Back in the present, Empress Liu Yunshu looked directly into Deepteen's eyes. A red glint of power flashed in her eyes along with a command that carried the weight of 1,000 mountains. You are in my presence. Why have you not knelt? An invisible pressure bore down from above. It caused Deepteen to break out in a cold sweat. The space around him seemed to freeze, and his legs no longer obeyed him. His 2 knees slammed hard onto the stone floor, creating a massive impact. In the middle of the silent great hall, Deepteen was forced to his knees under the absolute authority of the Empress. He gritted his teeth and tried to resist, but was completely powerless. This was completely different from his confrontation with Diepkai. This time I don't even have a chance to resist. Completely crushed. This isn't simply a matter of cultivation level, she's in existence on a completely different plane. Deepteen realized with bitterness, this is the strongest human alive. Meanwhile, Empress Liu Yunshu smiled knowingly. So you're the cultivator who only awakened his spiritual root after becoming an adult. Quite impressive, I must say. She stood up and walked with regal grace. In just 1 year, you've walked a path that takes others more than 10 years to complete, even from the capital. I have heard of your great reputation. Deepteen bowed his head to the floor, his voice full of humility. I was merely lucky. Compared to the geniuses of my generation, I am truly not worth mentioning. Empress Liu Yunshu tilted her head slightly, looking at him with an appreciative gaze. So you do know humility. Rise and speak. She walked down the palace steps and continued, I've heard that even the proud and talented young lady of the Zhao family from the south has become your disciple. Is that so? She gently closed her fan, recalling the past when I was a child following my royal father on a tour of the south and staying with the Zhao family. The father of that young lady. Countless famous masters were sought to be her teacher, yet she wouldn't give a single one of them the time of day. Li Yuan suddenly closed the distance, pointing her fan straight at Ye Xian. With a piercing gaze, she asked, how on earth did you manage to win that girl over? Ye Xian maintained a respectful demeanor. He bowed his head slightly and answered calmly, your servant merely made her a promise, that I could help her raise a true phoenix. Upon hearing this, Li Yuan stiffened for a moment, then burst into amused laughter, the silk of her robes rustling softly. Oh, how interesting. Suddenly, the Empress's expression turned stern. She declared authoritatively, Ye Xian, hear my decree. Li Yuan turned her back, her powerful red robes fluttering, while Ye Xian prostrated himself to receive the order. You are hereby promoted to Golden Attendant of the Demon Suppression Bureau and concurrently appointed as the Prefect of Yizhu. Depart at once to assume your post. Ye Xian shouted, this servant thanks your majesty for your grace. The Empress glanced back with a knowing smile. Let us see what other interesting things you are capable of. You are dismissed. The scene shifts to the quiet night outside the palace. Under a crescent moon, a figure lurks in the shadows, wondering to themselves, why would Her Majesty place so much importance on a man like him? Inside the silent, empty grand hall, Empress Li Yuan leaned back on her throne. A stream of golden dragon-shaped chi began to coil around her. The massive golden dragon spirit hissed, releasing a terrifying pressure that enveloped the palace. The golden dragon, its face ferocious, whispered in the Empress's ear. This brat is suspected of killing his brother, his mother, and his father. His heart is exceedingly cruel and vicious." Li Yuan replied nonchalantly, "Isn't it true there's still no concrete evidence? And even if he did do it, after so many years of being oppressed, if he didn't rise up and fight back, wouldn't he just become a second version of me?" The Empress's eyes suddenly grew somber, filled with sorrow and regret. Back then, if I had only realized my imperial brother's ambitions sooner, I wouldn't have had my spiritual root stolen, causing my power to be so severely damaged. And now those hordes of demons constantly provoke us, yet I must be cautious at every turn, not daring to act rashly. She gazed out towards the distant city walls where the border was in turmoil. Once those great demons realize I no longer have the strength to suppress the demon emperor, it will only be a matter of time before the border is breached. Meanwhile, Ye Xian was walking and wiping away beads of sweat. His face was twisted in disappointment. Damn it, I thought I was being given some lucrative post. Before him now stood the old dilapidated city gate of Yizhu. He lamented to the heavens. "And of all places, I get sent to this border city with the lowest GDP in the entire country." A girl walking beside him, Qifeng, looked up curiously at the Yizhou city sign and asked, "Lord Ye, what exactly is this GDP you speak of?" The young woman looked at Ye Xian with a mixture of admiration and confusion. "My lord, you're using words this humble one doesn't understand again. Being by your side, I truly learn so many new things every day." Ye Xian turned his face away slightly, his voice a bit unnatural. "Just call me by my name. Suddenly changing how you address me, it feels a bit strange." The girl smiled brightly, holding a notebook. "As you wish, Lord Yi, and speaking of which, what about that new disciple you took in? Why didn't you bring her along to broaden her horizons?" Ye Xian gazed into the distance where a cave named the Demon Cave was located. "Ah, her. She's busy training by herself over there right now." Character introduction. Head of the kitchen and butcher Ye Qifeng. At the cave's entrance, Qifeng formed a hand seal with 2 fingers. A magic circle glowed. "This is the Demon Cave sealed by the Demon Suppression Bureau. It can only be unsealed using the command token my master gave me." Her hand lightly touched the air. Shards of energy scattered as the seal broke. She slowly pushed the door open, revealing sharp claws scratching from within. In the deep darkness, a demon's glowing red eyes flashed, accompanied by a menacing growl. A giant wild boar appeared right in front of Qifeng, but the small girl stood her ground defiantly, spreading her arms wide in challenge. A monster opened its maw full of sharp fangs, about to pounce on its prey. Immediately, Qifeng reached behind her back and forcefully drew a giant butcher's cleaver. With an extremely fast and decisive movement, she swung in a sweeping arc, unleashing a wave of cyan energy that split the air. Qifeng shouldered the cleaver. She looked at the wild boars surrounding her with the eyes of a professional chef. "The pork supply in the kitchen has been running low lately. You all came at the perfect time." She licked her lips, her killing intent chillingly cold. "Time for me to harvest some provisions." The terrified demons scattered and fled in chaos. Qifeng stomped her foot and leaped high into the air, chasing after them. One wild boar, covered in injuries with blood streaming down its face, gasped for breath, trying to escape. Suddenly, a giant iron-spiked ball fell from the sky, crushing the ground right in front of the fleeing demon. A large demon in green armor stepped out, wielding a pair of powerful spiked maces. "Zhu Feng, captain of the Zhu Demon Guard 4th Realm. You useless trash!" Getting scared into this state by a little brat, Qifeng slowly walked forward on the damp ground, coming face to face with the captain, who was 3 times her size. Zhu Feng snorted coldly, his blood-red eyes staring at Qifeng. "Using my subordinates to make braised pork. Do you find that amusing?" Far from being scared, Qifeng flashed a provocative smile. "Huh." She turned slightly, pointing her cleaver at the horde of demons. "Well, you tell me. Aren't they all just pigheads?" Zhu Feng roared in fury, white steam puffing from his nostrils. "You filthy little brat! I'll rip your belly open and carve out your heart for a snack with my wine." The demon swung his 2 giant maces and leaped toward the petite girl with terrifying force. Qifeng nimbly ducked. She executed a long slide across the ground to narrowly dodge the fatal blow. Seizing the opening, she spun around and swung her blade in a powerful horizontal slash. The sharp edge carved a deep gash into Trufong's hind leg, sending fresh blood flying. Trufong roared and swung his spiked mace in a wide arc, aiming straight for Qifeng. Giving his opponent no time to breathe, he spun around, becoming a whirlwind of weapons that swept through and smashed the surrounding ground into smithereens. After the attack, Tru Fong panted heavily, blood seeping from his old wound. His bloodshot eyes revealed clear frustration. He growled, his contempt unconcealed. "You're like a dead bug, only knowing how to dodge back and forth." He tightened his grip on the mace's handle, continuing his taunts. "But those little knife cuts of yours are nothing more than an itch to me. Meanwhile, I only need to graze you once." Tru Fong began to spin his weapon again, creating powerful whirlwinds within the cramped space of the cave. And he shouted, "And you're finished!" Using the terrain, Ki Fong leaped onto a rock ledge to evade a sweeping blow from the mace that shattered the stone right beneath her feet. Seeing Kai Fong land still off balance, Tru Fong roared with excitement. "A perfect chance!" He threw all his strength into a direct charge toward her, his mace raised high, ready for a finishing blow. He unleashed a heaven-shattering strike. Its power created a small explosion that shook the entire cave. The wide view showed a massive crater had been formed by the attack as dust and smoke billowed up. Tru Fong's spiked mace was wedged tightly in the shattered rock. Thinking he had finished his opponent, he stood panting, his voice filled with satisfaction. "In the end, you were always going to be my meal." Suddenly, his eyes widened in horror. 2 streams of tears ran down his face at an unbelievable sight. From within the rocky crater, Kai Fong's small hand had placed itself on the spiked ball. Slowly, she lifted it up. With a powerful jerk, she snapped the handle and ripped the mace from Tru Fong's grasp. He screamed in terror, "This little brat! Where did she get that kind of brute strength? How could she snatch my weapon with her bare hands?" Amidst the rock dust, Kai Fong, her eyes glowing red with killing intent, used both hands to lift the heavy spiked mace above her head. Right after that, she tossed the weapon aside and drew a dagger much smaller than her original butcher's cleaver. Tru Fong stared, bewildered by her strange action. "Switching to a smaller knife, huh?" He laughed arrogantly again. "I'll admit your strength is quite surprising. But even that great blade of yours couldn't do a thing to me. Switching to this little knife is no different from suicide." Without a word, Ki Fong charged in to attack, her dagger flashing with incredible speed, creating continuous streaks of blue light across his body. Tru Fong felt no pain at all. He snorted contemptuously. "Humph, trying to scratch my itch again, are you?" Just as he finished speaking and raised his hand to counter, his body suddenly froze. Countless deep gashes appeared all at once across Tru Fong's body, and fresh blood gushed out violently. The demon's massive hand trembled and went limp. The blood from his body formed a large pool on the ground. He stammered in absolute panic,
Why? Why can you suddenly slash through my flesh?"
Only then did Kai Fong slowly stand up straight. In her hands were not 1 but 2 daggers gleaming with a cold light. Tru Fong was aghast. "2 daggers!" Ki Fong's eyes suddenly flickered with a distant sadness. She whispered as if talking to herself, "I've never read any books. Since I was little, I've gotten used to following my father, a butcher, staying up late and waking up early." Tru Fong's eyes widened, unable to comprehend her words. "What?" She looked at the daggers in her hands. "These skills are in my very blood. The techniques senior sister Yunshu wrote for me. I couldn't understand them, and I don't have the talent to learn techniques from books, like Master did." Tru Fong staggered backward, clutching his wounds. He roared in confusion and anger, "Damn it, what the hell are you rambling about?" Ki Fong quietly gritted her teeth. Her eyes reflected years of hardship. "After all these years of non-stop work and practice at the butcher shop, I am—" She took a stance with her dual blades. Blue spiritual energy enveloped her body as she declared loudly, "A genuine master pig butcher." Well, that was one for the books. Tru Fong roared in fury. He lost all his composure. "Cut the crap!" He threw all his remaining strength into a charge like a cornered beast. His body began to transform, crazily revealing a layer of thick hide and bulging muscles. With a roar, Tru Fong's body began to change, swelling into a giant wild boar with pitch-black fur and long, sharp tusks. Hot, aggressive air snorted from its nostrils. After transforming, the monster leaped into the air and crashed down like a black meteor, carrying enough weight to flatten anything. Kai Fong didn't flinch. She swung her dual blades, creating an arc of blue light to block the thunderous impact. Although she parried the attack, she still felt an extremely powerful shockwave. She looked at the shallow gash on the monster's hide and thought to herself, "Its flesh is even tougher than before." Cracks began to appear on the cave's ceiling. Unable to withstand the force of their clash, rubble began to fall from above, signaling an imminent collapse. Ki Fong glanced around her face, showing clear worry. If this keeps up, it's going to bring this whole cave down. The giant wild boar continued its rampage, ramming straight into the cliff wall and forcing Kai Fuang to roll across the ground to dodge the falling boulders. Suddenly, a strange light flashed in Kai Fuang's eyes. In her vision, the monster's body structure appeared with perfect clarity. She murmured, "Every muscle fiber, every joint, I can see them all perfectly." She channeled all her spiritual energy into her blades and shouted the name of her technique, Demonic Butchering Blade Arts. Pao Ding's Hog Cleaver Deboning Technique. Kai Fuang shot forward. She left behind beautiful but deadly arcs of blue light. Countless lightning-fast slashes were unleashed, enveloping the monster's entire massive body. The blades glided with millimeter precision, severing every joint and tendon. In the blink of an eye, all the monster's flesh had been stripped from its skeleton. Fresh blood and organs splattered everywhere before the bare white skeleton collapsed against the cliff wall. Amidst the ruins, a notification appeared, Demon Boar has been defeated. Realm has been increased, promoted to Beastmaster. Kai Fuang, carrying a giant bag full of loot on her shoulder, walked away with satisfaction. A status panel appeared, Bountiful Harvest. Along with the rare pork essence items, a sturdy wild boar tusk and a mysterious letter. Meanwhile, at the official residence in Yi Province, another notification appeared before Ye Xian. Ye Xian's experience points increased, leveling him up to the 5th stage minor completion realm. At the Yi Province governor's mansion, Zun Qian, a middle-aged man with a full beard, was sitting listlessly on his chair and asked, "Lord Rui, I wonder what business brings you to this remote place of mine?" Ye Xian, sitting across from him, smiled cryptically. "His Majesty sent me here to oversee the progress of reclaiming the lost lands." Zun Qian sighed, his face full of frustration. "Lord Rui, you just don't understand. The Imperial Court has never sent any aid here. Expecting us to reclaim the lands with only the local forces, it's just too difficult." These words, "I've said the same thing to all the previous emissaries." He pointed out the window towards a map hanging on the wall. "This Yi Province of ours, it's right next to a vast sea of forest. Every time those boar demons come out to cause trouble, and they just disappear right back into it. With the little manpower I have, how could I possibly risk sending my men into the forest to hunt them down?" Zun Qian waved his hand dismissively, his voice full of resignation and helplessness. "Besides the displaced people in the occupied lands beyond the mountain, I assume they've all been slaughtered by the boar demons already. So what's the point in reclaiming it?" The smile on Ye Xian's face vanished. His eyes turned sharp and his voice became stern. "Have you sent anyone to confirm whether that's true?" Zun Qian quickly stood up and bowed, explaining, "To send someone to confirm, we'd have to cross that forest. And to cross the forest, we have to get past the captain of the boar demon guard stationed there. That captain is incredibly strong and fierce. We've clashed with him a few times before and suffered heavy losses every time. It's really not worth it." Zun Qian leaned forward slightly, his face hidden in the shadows, a challenging smile appearing. "If Lord Rui is so impatient, then why don't you go and try for yourself? I've heard you rose to your current position in a very short time. You must be a man of extraordinary skill." Suddenly, Ye Xian clapped his hands once. He stood up with a nonchalant expression. "Ah, since you've brought it up." Zun Qian flinched, a cold sweat breaking out on the back of his neck at Ye Xian's sudden action. He whipped his head back and stammered, "What? What's going on?" Just then, the door to the room burst open. Jifang strode in confidently, carrying a giant sack on her shoulder and an enormous wild boar tusk. She called out cheerfully, "Master!" Zun Qian's eyes widened at the sight of the tusk, which was still stained with fresh blood. His face turned pale with a horrifying realization. That giant boar tusk! Could it be from... Before he could finish his sentence, Jifang walked straight in and asked Ye Xian as if no one else was there, "I've taken care of that boar demon, Captain. Master, would you like bone broth soup or braised pork for dinner tonight?" Zun Qian stood frozen to the spot, his mind in a state of utter disbelief. That's the great demon guarding Boar Demon Mountain. And he was just taken out by a mere slip of a girl like that. Suddenly, Jifang seemed to remember something. She quickly said, "Oh, that's right." She reached into her sack, pulled out a carefully sealed scroll, and handed it to Ye Xian while Zun Qian stood beside them, sweating profusely in fear. "Master, this boar demon was also carrying a secret letter." Ye Xian took the scroll and frowned slightly. A secret letter. He used his finger to peel off the red wax seal. Zun Qian's eyes were now bloodshot from the intense stress. As soon as the seal was broken, a brilliant golden magic circle shone from the scroll, emitting a powerful surge of energy. All of a sudden, the scroll shot down and embedded itself in the floor, right in front of Ye Xian. Ji Fang and Ye Xian both looked at it. She asked worriedly, "Master, what is this?" Ye Xian calmly explained, "This is an encrypted seal. Normally, you need a specific incantation to open it." Ji Fang asked again, "So what do we do now?" Ye Xian replied, "Later, we'll give it to your senior sister Yunshu and see if she has a way to break it." With that, he turned to Sun Qian, his blue eyes flashing dangerously with a smile. "Governor Qian, the gatekeeper, has been dealt with. Can you send your men to confirm the situation now?" Sun Qian was so scared he was speechless. He stammered, "Yes, of course." Soon after, the gates of Yi province opened, and a large contingent of troops began to march into the dense forest. Sun Qian stood on the city wall watching the back of Ye Xian, who was leading the way. His expression was full of worry, but he gripped the railing and muttered with a sinister look, "You're the one who insisted on going? If anything happens, don't blame me." The group ventured deep into the treacherous mountain region where the trees were dense and the air was gloomy. A soldier walking next to Ye Xian spoke up, "Sir, we've been walking for quite a while. Perhaps we should stop and rest for a bit." The group stopped on a slope. Another soldier offered a canteen of water. "My lord, would you like some water?" Ye Xian glanced at the canteen and coldly refused to drink. The commander Qian Liang then glanced and signaled to another soldier. That soldier immediately took out a piece of dried meat and offered it. "Are you hungry, sir? How about having some of this dried meat, then?" Ye Xian still adamantly refused to eat. He stood up, dusted off his clothes, and looked at the two soldiers with a fed-up expression. "All right, that's enough. The two of you stop wasting your efforts." His shadow stretched long on the ground, his voice as cold as ice. "If I'm not mistaken, both the water and the dried meat are poisoned, aren't they?" The two soldiers flinched. They looked at each other in horror, then lowered their heads. Ye Xian stood with his hands behind his back, looking down into the abyss. "You had me sit with my back to the cliff on purpose, to cut off my escape route." He glanced towards the dense forest. "And in that forest, I'm sure you have quite a few men lying in ambush, don't you? These soldiers following me this time, they were all sent to take my life." From the shadows of the forest, countless soldiers with spears and blades in hand slowly emerged, forming a tight encirclement. The commander Qian Liang, prefect of the Yizhou City Guard, and a fourth-layer realm cultivator stepped out. He sneered, "Since you've already figured it all out, then there's no need for us to pretend anymore. Jump down on your own. Don't make things difficult for my brothers and me." Ye Xian replied nonchalantly, "I'm not jumping." Qian Liang gritted his teeth. The commander said nothing more. He drew his saber, charged straight at Ye Xian, and roared, "You're courting death!" Just as the blade was about to strike Ye Xian, a clang rang out and a brilliant golden light erupted. Two nearby soldiers were thrown back by the light. They stared in astonishment at the scene before them. Ye Xian had now drawn his own sword, his eyes glowing a brilliant blue. Golden spiritual energy enveloped the blade. "You are supposedly the elites of the city guard. Instead of fighting demons, you harm your own people. And you seem to put a lot of effort into it, don't you? I suppose my predecessors, the former prefects, died just like this." "Right, Qian Liang." After being pushed back, he pointed at Ye Xian and ordered all his soldiers, "All of you charge him for me." 3 fully armed soldiers, swinging sabers and brandishing spears, brimming with killing intent, simultaneously charged at Ye Xian from 3 sides. Ye Xian was completely calm. He spun around, unleashing countless beautiful blue arcs from his sword. Parrying all the blades and spears aimed at him, he was quickly put on the defensive, continuously retreating right to the edge of the cliff. Seeing this, Qian Liang grew smug. His face filled with killing intent, he roared the order, "He's cornered, knock him off the cliff!" Upon receiving the order, a soldier gathered his strength behind a steel shield. Like a frenzied tank, he charged straight at where Ye Xian was standing. Seeing his enemy rush towards him, Ye Xian didn't even blink. He took a deep breath. His killing intent erupted, transforming into a swirling black aura that enveloped his body along with his 2 brilliantly glowing blades. Witnessing that terrifying and overwhelming sight, the commander Qian Liang jumped in shock. Cold sweat drenched his forehead in terror. Not giving his enemies a moment to recover, Ye Xian lunged forward like a whirlwind, slashing out with his twin blades. Intersecting waves of sword energy tore through the air. The terrifying power from the strike flew past the soldiers and carved a deep X shape into the trunk of an ancient tree behind them. Taking the full force of the deadly slash, the top half of the giant ancient tree slowly slid down along the smooth cut, snapping in two as the heavy ruined trunk came crashing down. It smashed down right in the middle of the enemy formation, kicking up a cloud of dust. The terrified soldiers scrambled back in panic. Only then did the shield-bearing soldier who had been charging realize he had been hit by the sword energy. His chest plate cracked open and fresh blood gushed out profusely before he collapsed, stunned by such power. Qianliang's eyes went wide, his face drained of all color. He stammered tremblingly, You're not just some bureaucrat. How can you... Before Qianliang could finish his sentence, blood sprayed from his own wound, and he collapsed unconscious on the spot. Standing amidst a battlefield littered with unconscious soldiers, Jifang brushed off her hands. She looked at the system panel announcing an increase in experience and murmured, "Mission successfully completed." I wonder how things are going on Master's End. Meanwhile, in a vast, deep forest, the figure of Ye Xian flickered in and out of sight as he glided through the treetops with terrifying speed. With a single leap, he shot into the air, arms spread wide, and landed on a high branch. From the hilltop, his gaze swept over the vast refugee valley nestled deep within the mountains. Down in the valley, the constant clang of a hammer echoed. Each strike on the red-hot iron sent sparks flying. Standing out by the forge was the apprentice blacksmith San Niang. A female blacksmith with healthy tanned skin was sweating profusely as she diligently focused her strength on forging a weapon. In the middle of her work, San Niang suddenly paused. A drop of sweat rolled down her cheek. She frowned and turned, hearing an unusual commotion nearby. Her gaze followed the sound to a spot over there. A frail old woman was prostrated on the grimy ground. In front of her was a dropped steamed bun, and a soldier was standing over her, pointing and cursing directly in her face. The arrogant soldier, with his hands on his hips, cruelly shouted, "You old hag, are you looking to die? Who gave you permission to take a bun to eat, huh?" Terrified, the old woman trembled and begged, tears streaming down her haggard face. "My lord, please have mercy. Ever since my son died of exhaustion here. His work all fell on me, but pushing hundreds of ore carts every day. This old body of mine truly can't handle it anymore." Hearing her pleas, the soldier coldly leaned down. His voice was full of mockery and intimidation. "In this refugee valley, you lot should be grateful to Lord Cao that you're even still alive. It was he who surrendered to the Qi Yu tribe, and that's how you refugees got the chance to forge weapons and transport supplies for them." As he spoke, he callously pointed towards a hulking demon standing guard on the hill. "If you can't do your work, you're useless, old hag, and useless people get handed over to the demons, to be the Lord Demon's drinking snack." Catching the signal, the pig demon heard this and excitedly licked its lips. Drool dripped down its hideous face, ready for its meal. Utterly inhuman. The soldier shot his brutish hand straight for the old woman and bellowed aggressively, "I'm handing you over to Lord Juyao right now." Feeling death draw near, the panicked old woman cowered, clutching her head and wailing in helpless desperation, "My lord, spare my life, ah!" In that very moment when her life hung by a thread, Tai San Nyang shot forward like a gust of wind. Her strong hand gripped the soldier's wrist tightly as she spoke in a resolute voice, "My lord, I ask you to stay your hand." Stopped so abruptly, the soldier's brow furrowed slightly. His eyes showed clear irritation mixed with surprise, seeing someone dare to oppose him. Tia San Nyang bravely stepped forward to shield the woman and declared confidently, "Just let me do the old woman's work for her. All I ask is for 2 extra steamed buns each day." Seeing the old woman being bullied, Tia San Nyang bravely stepped forward to shield her and declared confidently, "Let me do the old woman's work for her. All I ask is for 2 extra steamed buns each day." After the negotiation was done, San Yang took the old woman to a corner of a makeshift tent to rest, and told her gently, "Please get some rest here." Taking the bowl of thin porridge, the old woman was so moved she began to cry. Looking at the kind girl, she said, "Oh, my dear child, truly thank you. You've saved this old life of mine. But you'll have to forge iron and transport hundreds of ore carts. I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it all." Hearing this, San Yang gave a brilliant smile and flexed her toned arm full of confidence. "It's really no problem at all. Besides, I've got energy to spare." Witnessing this scene, the old woman sighed again, gazing toward the bleak valley. "Oh, I wonder when we'll ever escape this hell on earth. People die every day. Our lives are worth less than those of ants." Gazing at the sheer cliffs, the old woman wondered in despair. "It's been so long. Why haven't the Emperor's troops come to save us? Could it be that the imperial court has abandoned us?" A honeybee controlled by Ye Xian was circling over their heads, listening to everything. Through the bee's eyes, Ye Xian observed in silence and had an idea. A blacksmith, if I take this girl as my disciple, wouldn't she be able to forge weapons for me? Flying higher, the bee took in a panoramic view of the refugee valley with hundreds of tents packed close together, surrounded by cliffs and heavily guarded. The bitter truth was laid bare. Ye Xian silently assessed the situation. So the army sent to reclaim the old lands surrendered directly to the Zhu Yao tribe, and they've imprisoned all these refugees here to forge weapons and to prepare their supplies. Approaching a tent that was much larger and more luxurious than the others, the honeybee hid behind a wooden post to eavesdrop on the conversation within. Inside the tent, a giant Zhu Yao named Zhu Ke of the 6th cultivation level sat imposingly on a wooden throne, radiating a terrifying foul aura. The creature bared its fangs, looking down at the human official kneeling at its feet, and growled, "Lord Cao, how are the military preparations progressing?" Cao, the commander stationed in the valley, bowed respectfully, his voice dripping with sycophancy. "My Lord Zhu, preparations are in the final stage. In 3 days we will be able to dispatch the army and conquer De Prefecture City." Pleased with the answer, Zhu Ke slapped his thigh and let out a booming laugh. "Then the deal is the same as before. After we take the city, all the common folk inside are to be handed over to my men as appetizers for our drinks." Without a shred of hesitation, Cao De bowed even lower and spoke with chilling indifference. "Those commoners are no more than ants. Your lordship may do as he pleases, fry them, stew them, cook them however you like." Hearing those words, even a monster like Zhu Ke was stunned. "This guy, you treat your own kind with such cold-bloodedness. If you weren't still wearing the skin of a man, I'd suspect you and I were the same species." Realizing the situation was critical, the honeybee hurriedly flew away. "I have to get this intelligence to Jifang immediately." Cut to Jifang's location. She is holding a secret message sent by Ye Xian. "The prefect of De Prefecture is conspiring with the rebel army in the refugee valley in a plot to rebel. You are to monitor Sun Qian closely. If the situation becomes critical, arrest him immediately." She pouted and mumbled, "Why does Master always write horizontally?" "I've told him so many times. Our dynasty is used to writing vertically." Night fell upon the valley. Tia Sanyang was still toiling away, pushing heavy carts of stone under the dim moonlight, when suddenly the shouts of the guards echoed out, breaking the silence. "Hurry up!" San Niang quickly hid behind a rock face to observe. She peeked out, holding her breath, and watched the guards' suspicious activities in the darkness. Ahead, a group of emaciated refugees was being led deep into a pitch-black cave under the watch of sword-wielding soldiers. Looking closely at the group, at the bar, San Niang was startled to see the figure of the old woman from the morning walking shakily among them. Realizing someone she knew was in danger, San Niang cried out in her heart, "Grandma, Mom, my name ain't." Among the ranks of the miserable people, worried whispers could be heard. "Where are they taking us? They said they were going to set us free. Then why have they tied us up and are leading us into a cave like this?" The old woman trembled, looking at the guard beside her, her voice full of fragile hope. Are you really letting us go?" In response to her question, it was the blazing red craving eyes of a beast demon lurking in the darkness of the cave that made the old woman stare down from above in horror at the two guards. They were pushing the pitiful group of people deep into the cave's maw as dark as a monster's mouth at the edge of a cliff. A young girl among the displaced people, her hands tightly bound, stared with vacant eyes down into the bottomless abyss. A close-up on her eyes filled with absolute terror. Below the cliff was a hair-raising sight, thousands of withered white human skeletons piled up with blowflies buzzing everywhere. It turned out the freedom they spoke of was being released to fall freely. Standing on the brink of death, the poor young girl could only open her mouth and scream in utter panic. Tears of despair streamed down her face, but in response to her desperate cries for help, there was only the cold flash of a blade tearing through the night as the heartless guard swung the cruel weapon. It slashed straight into the girl's chest. The force was so strong that fresh blood splattered everywhere, staining the rough cliff face red. Her fragile, lifeless body simply collapsed backward, immediately after she tumbled down into the bottomless abyss like a leaf torn from a branch. Her body landed with a thud on the stinking pile of white bones at the bottom of the chasm, ending a fragile life in this hellish place. The girl's eyes were wide open, lifeless. Amidst a cruel forest of skulls, blowflies immediately swarmed her as if for a brutal feast. At the cliff's edge, the merciless slaughter continued, one body after another. They were continuously pushed off onto the blood-soaked rocks. A burly beast demon was swinging a giant cleaver, hacking relentlessly at the unfortunate victims. He was savagely butchering our kind. Each vicious chop rained down, staining the very air red with fresh blood. After satisfying his bloodlust, the beast demon glared and ordered his underlings standing nearby. Drag them down, butcher them cleanly, and hang them up. Bring the freshest, tenderest meat to the boss. The minion hurriedly nodded in obedience. Yes, sir. But it didn't end there. The cruel beast demon continued his instructions. That's right. Save a batch for those high and mighty human officials in the capital. Hearing this, the underling dropped the corpse he was holding and asked in astonishment, Huh? They eat their own kind. Smirking contemptuously at the depravity of humankind, the beast demon gloated sarcastically, It doesn't matter what race you are. There will always be a few who are worse than pigs and dogs. Besides, the boss said that with this weakness in our grasp, we can use it to threaten them when we attack the capital later. After speaking, he noticed some movement in the distance. He shouted with glee, More goods are being sent down! Looks like we're killing quite a few people today, huh? Back on the cliff's edge, the two guards coldly closed in on the poor old woman. They muttered to each other, Only one left. Let's finish this quickly and get off shift. The blinding light of a raised blade illuminated the old woman's wrinkled face, which was contorted in absolute fear. Death seemed to be just an inch away. In that hair-raising moment, a figure shot out from the shadows, saving the old woman in the nick of time. It was none other than Tam Nuong. She bravely rushed forward, grabbed the old woman, and threw them both to the ground to dodge. The deadly blade had just grazed past his head. He immediately turned back, gritted his teeth, and roared, Why did this blacksmith run over here? Not bothering to answer, Tam Nuong immediately grabbed the old woman's hand and fled for her life along the mountainside, urgently shouting, Run! But they hadn't gotten far when a colossal beast demon as burly as a small mountain blocked their escape, causing the old woman to cry out in alarm, Oh no! If we keep going like this. Knowing she was just a burden, the old woman looked back and urged the young girl, You can't run fast while dragging me along. At this rate, neither of us will escape. Don't worry about me anymore, just run. Gritting her teeth, a determined fire ignited in Tam Nuong's eyes. She dismissed any thought of giving up stamping her foot on the ground to gain footing. If that's the case, she pushed the old woman back to safety, then turned to face the giant monster and bravely shouted, Then I'll risk it all! Provoked by a tiny human. The beast demon angrily swung its greatsword straight down, slicing through the air as it bellowed, You want to die! An unbelievable sight unfolded. Tam Nuong didn't dodge. Instead, she used both hands to precisely catch the monster's descending wrist, stopping the ferocious attack in its tracks. Despite the heaven and earth difference in their sizes, the blacksmith girl stood her ground firm as a rock, completely overpowering the creature's strength. Cold sweat poured down the monster's forehead. Its red eyes clearly showed utter disbelief at this terrifying strength. This little brat! She actually caught my wrist with her bare hands, seizing the opportunity while her enemy was confused. Tam Nuong spun around her fist, swirling with inner energy, channeling all her spirit into her arm. Pushing off from the ground, she unleashed a thunderous uppercut that ripped through the air. The ironclad fist slammed precisely into the giant beast demon's stomach with immense destructive force. It shattered the very air around it. The massive body, weighing hundreds of pounds, was sent flying high into the air, tumbling backward to everyone's astonishment. Witnessing that shocking scene, the remaining guard hurriedly drew his sword and took a defensive stance, muttering as beads of sweat formed on his brow. Has this little blacksmith trained in martial arts? Not giving the enemy a moment to recover, Tam Nuong let out a mighty roar and with both hands heaved up a giant boulder bigger than herself, hoisting it high above her head. The shadow of the great rock fell over him, obscuring the guard's vision as he looked up with despair in his eyes, knowing his fate was sealed. The giant boulder slammed down, crushing the fiend and creating an earth-shattering impact. The collision shook the entire section of the cliff. The lightning-fast battle was over. The old woman stood rooted to the spot, staring dazedly at the back of the blacksmith girl who had just displayed such power, like a goddess of war. As for Tam Nuong, she wiped a drop of sweat from her forehead, looked at her own hands in amazement, and muttered, I never thought this bit of strength would be so useful in a fight. Seems all those years of forging iron weren't a waste after all. The corner of the old woman's mouth twitched as she silently sized up her young savior. This kid, Turns out she's this good at fighting. But their joy was short-lived. From the cave entrance, a fully armed legion of pig demons swarmed out like a disturbed beehive, their shouts echoing, "We've been infiltrated by humans. Send reinforcements now. Don't let them escape." Looking back, Sanyang saw dozens of enemies rushing toward them like moths to a flame. She broke out in a cold sweat, the smile on her face instantly freezing. There are still this many of them, surrounded by the horde of monsters. Taisan Niang gripped the old woman's hand and pulled her along, running for their lives on the steep rocky slope, constantly urging, "Grandma, Grandma, run, hurry up!" The frantic sound of their footsteps crunched on the dry gravel. Just then, San Niang froze, spotting a strange figure standing imposingly blocking the cave entrance up ahead. Under the hazy moonlight, the dark figure was clad in the armor of an imperial soldier, standing as still as an ancient statue in the gloomy space. The pig demon pursuing them from behind mistook him for an ally. He pointed and commanded arrogantly, "You human soldier up there, stop those escaped prisoners for me now." In response, the mysterious soldier slowly raised his hand and decisively drew his longsword from its sheath, the blade revealing a chilling glint of cold steel. A sword strike tore through the air with terrifying speed so fast that Tia San Yang only saw a dazzling streak of light flash before her very eyes. The turquoise slash of sword energy carried with it a devastating power. It sliced through the very air, blowing away everything in its path. Stunned, San Yang raised a hand to her neck, her eyes wide with confusion as she wondered in utter disbelief. I'm still alive." Behind her, the dark figures of the fierce pig demons from just a moment ago were now nothing but shattered fragments, vanishing completely into the void. The pig demon leader, standing nearby, froze, stammering, unable to utter a single word. He was utterly horrified by the impossible scene before him. What? In the next instant, a sharp vertical slash split the massive monster's body in two, sending him to meet his maker before he even knew what hit him. Fresh blood splattered everywhere, staining a corner of the cave red. Countless other pig demons fell one by one to powerful unseen sword strikes amidst a rain of blood and chaos. As the darkness slowly faded, the soldier's figure emerged solitary and majestic, his aura completely overwhelming his surroundings. The young soldier Ye Xian in disguise let out a soft sigh of relief. Phew, that was a close call. I almost didn't make it in time. Sanyang and the old woman hurriedly bowed in gratitude. "Oh, great hero. Thank you, sir, for saving our lives." He cut them off, urging, "We can't stay here. Let's get to safety first, then we'll talk." The young soldier then quietly murmured a spell. He raised 2 fingers to cast it, and a stream of turquoise spiritual energy began to envelop all 3 of them. San Niang looked down in amazement as her feet began to lift off the ground. She thought in awe, this man is incredible, to think he knows such advanced magic. The old woman beside her couldn't contain her astonishment. Good heavens, is this old bag of bones actually flying? After crossing the treacherous cliffs, he gently set them down in a quiet forest and spoke kindly to the old woman. "Ma'am, I've brought you to safety now. You can rest here without any worries." With tears welling in her eyes, the old woman grasped his hand. "Our savior, you saved our lives. I don't know how we can ever repay you." The young soldier smiled, turning to look at San Yang with a scrutinizing gaze. Then he asked suddenly, "Do you have a dream?" San Yang scratched her head, flustered. Why do you ask, sir?" But she answered him sincerely, "If I had to say, my dream is to become a master weaponsmith for the imperial court." A sad look clouded her eyes, and her hand clutched the hem of her clothes in regret. "Unfortunately, the world of smithing is very exclusive. If you don't have a recommendation from someone reputable," her voice trailed off in disappointment, "no one will take me on as an apprentice. Because of that, I can only forge a few types of crude, cheap weapons." At that moment, the young soldier smirked confidently. "In that case, become my disciple. I can help you achieve that dream, and even help you surpass it." Tia San Yang stood frozen, her beautiful eyes wide in disbelief. Sir? What did you just say?" He crossed his arms. His tone was mysterious and majestic. "That's right. All you have to do is call me master once." Without a moment's hesitation, the young woman immediately dropped to her knees and kowtowed respectfully. "Master, please accept this disciple's bow." Immediately, a glowing system information panel appeared. New disciple confirmed, Tai San Niang. Realm apprentice. Trait iron. Forging unparalleled strength. Congratulations to Ye Xian on recruiting a genuine powerhouse. After the ceremony, San Yang looked toward the valley of the displaced and asked worriedly, "Master, how do you plan to conquer this place?" He gazed into the distance and replied thoughtfully, "Let me think for a moment." In his mind, Ye Xian began to analyze the situation. The personnel available for direct combat were almost none. Ye Qifeng was still busy suppressing the rebel army in Yizhou City. He mentally reviewed his team. Liu Yunshu couldn't fight head-on at the moment, and as for Zhao Yuqi, she was still leveling up. At this thought, he turned to look at San Niang, who stared back at him blankly. The scene shifts to the main hall of the pig demon tribe. A fierce guard brandishes his blade, blocking the way of a mysterious figure, Ye Xian in disguise. "Halt!" he yells. "What's your business here?" He calmly replied, "I've come to offer the great chieftain the finest, freshest human meat just recently harvested." The pig demon guard eyed the sack on his back and then barked imperiously, "You know the rules here. No weapons are allowed inside." As he spoke, a harsh metallic clang echoed as the sword was tossed onto the cold ground. A dramatic infiltration was about to begin. Inside the large tent, the great chieftain Zhu Ke sat imposingly on his wooden throne, baring his fangs as he looked down in annoyance. "Why did you bring so little today?" Disguised as a soldier. Ye Xian knelt on one knee and replied respectfully, "My lord, the chef has prepared a new dish and sent it specially for you to see if it is to your liking." In a flashback, San Niang worriedly whispered to her master, "Master, would it be possible for me to use a technique to turn into a honeybee to sneak in for the assassination?" Ye Xian calmly explained to his disciple, "That chieftain's cultivation level is higher than mine. If you turn into a bee, he'll easily see through the disguise. On the other hand, using the appearance of a soldier, a human form will make it easier to approach him." Ye Xian handed San Yang a heavy piece of metal and instructed, "I am entrusting you with this task. In a moment when I go inside the tent, you must wait for the perfect moment and then throw this axe head in there with all your strength." Having received her master's orders, San Niang stood outside, channeling all her strength into her legs to build momentum. Preparing for a thunderous throw, her calloused hands gripped the iron axe handle tightly. Her muscles tensed up hard as rock, revealing a formidable latent power. With a powerful swing of her arm, the massive piece of iron tore through the air, carrying a stream of azure spiritual energy as it hurtled straight towards the main tent. The axe head spun, creating an immense vortex of pressure while San Niang worried to herself, "Master, will an attack of this level from me really be effective?" The iron block smashed violently through the wooden wall of the hut, creating a powerful impact. Ye Xian's voice rang out full of resolve. "It's working!" Just as he was about to make his move, the man on the throne suddenly sensed a dangerous metallic aura from behind. He whipped his head around in shock. The iron axe shattered all obstacles and shot toward him like a lightning bolt, causing the giant demon's expression to change. With the reflexes of a master, Zhu Ke raised his muscular arm to block the attack and growled with contempt. "Pathetic little tricks from you ants." A cold glint flashed in Ye Xian's eyes. He smirked victoriously to himself. "All I needed was for him to turn his head." Instantly, he raised his hand and cast a spell. Surging streams of brilliant blue electricity coiled from Ye Xian's palm, transforming into chains of spiritual energy that wrapped tightly around the demon's neck. Seizing the opportunity, Ye Xian used his magic, his now massively oversized body leaping high into the air and then crashing down onto the chieftain's throne. Ye Xian used his incredible strength to grip the enemy's neck tightly from behind despite the demon's roars. "You audacious human! How dare you sneak in here to assassinate me, the great chieftain?" He replied coldly, "Cut the crap. Go repent in the underworld." Pushed into a corner, Zhu Ke gritted his teeth, enduring the suffocating pressure. "You think this pathetic chokehold is enough to take me down?" He summoned a giant, glowing red spiked mace. "I'll smash your head to pieces." The monster swung the weapon violently behind him, intending to crush the one clinging to his shoulder in a single blow. With immense strength and lightning speed, Ye Xian kicked off the wooden wall, using the rebound force to drag the giant demon straight outside with him. Both of them crashed through the wall of the hut. They were in free fall from a towering cliff, shrouded by the dark night and clouds of dust and rock. In midair, Zhu Ke roared maniacally, "You want to die and take me down with you." He laughed savagely. "How naive. When we hit the ground, I'll crawl back up from my dying breath and grind you into a pile of minced meat." Yexian's eyes remained strangely calm. He smirked slightly. Who would want to perish with a pighead like you? A brilliant purple light erupted from his hand, from his void. Lightning technique bolts of purple lightning carrying heavenly might descended. They struck directly on top of Ju Qi's head, creating a fiery streak that tore through the night sky. In the vast valley, an earth-shattering explosion occurred as the two hit the ground. Thick smoke and dust billowed up, obscuring the entire area. The smoke and dust gradually began to clear. Yexian landed gently with incredible elegance, even as the ground around him had been shattered into pieces. In the distance, the crimson-spiked mace was embedded deep in the earth. Lost amidst the wisps of gray smoke left after the explosion, Ju Qi staggered to his feet from within the rubble. Fresh blood streamed down his charred body, but his size had shrunk considerably. Compared to before, Yexian silently observed and analyzed. His body has shrunk quite a bit. It seems he had to consume a large amount of demonic energy to heal his recent injuries, so he can no longer maintain his giant form. Seeing that his enemy had weakened, Yexian also began to retract his enlargement spell, his body gradually fading. In that case, there's no need for me to maintain a similar size and waste my power. Just as he shrank back to normal size, Yexian had to face a wind-cleaving swing from the mace of the furiously charging demon. Ju Qi swung the heavy iron mace, smashing it down from above and causing the ground to crack under the terrifying pressure. As fast as a flash, Yexian drew his long spear from its sheath. A brilliant blue light flashed as he prepared for a direct confrontation. The two weapons clashed, creating a violent shockwave. Sparks flew everywhere in the darkness of the valley. They charged at each other at dizzying speeds, leaving behind intersecting trails of light as their weapons clashed relentlessly. The demon unleashed a powerful downward strike. Despite being on the defensive, Yexian maintained an astonishing level of calm. He quickly swung his staff to parry the blow. Immediately after, his body was sent flying, sliding a great distance away by the overwhelming force of the demon's attack. Drifting with the cloud of dust, Yexian used his superb lightness skill to stabilize himself. He keenly analyzed the situation. Every time our weapons clash, his mace gets heavier. There's something strange about that mace. It must be some kind of special magical artifact. Not giving his enemy a moment to recover, he launched himself into the air. His staff sliced through the wind, creating a perfect arc aimed straight at the demon's head. Seeing this, the demon immediately raised his weapon to block. The two were thrown back before clashing again, the sound of metal ringing out ceaselessly. In the instant, Yexian swung his long staff and struck the demon directly. The impact was so powerful it sent Ju Qi flying far into the distance. A massive explosion of spiritual energy erupted at the center of the battlefield, blowing away the ground and creating a deep, rocky crater. Amidst the crumbling earth and misty dust, Ju Qi's figure slowly emerged. He wiped a streak of blood from the corner of his mouth. Ju Qi gritted his teeth, cursing silently in bitter resentment. Deceitful humans. If it weren't for that initial assassination attempt consuming so much of my power, there's no way I'd be losing to a scoundrel with a lower cultivation level than me like you. Not giving his enemy a single second to rest, Yexian continued sending his staff flying like a divine arrow aimed straight for the demon's heart. Ju Qi fell back in a panic. He screamed internally as he felt the overwhelming pressure from his opponent. Is this guy really not going to give me even a second to catch my breath? He quickly brought his weapon back into his hand and swung it to defend, striking directly at Yexian's staff. Instantly, Yexian retracted his staff, causing the demon to lose his balance. The staff flew back at an incredible speed. He coldly saw through his opponent's scheme and shouted, "Trying to charge your mace by clashing weapons again? In your dreams." Exposed, Ju Qi growled in fury, his face contorted. "You insect-like human. Do you really think that's enough to restrain my magical artifact?" He swung the strange weapon fiercely, creating a deadly attack trajectory aimed at Yexian's side with terrifying speed. In a crazy move, Ju Qi violently smashed his two maces together. This caused them to erupt with a destructive, brilliant red aura, as if they had just been fully charged with magical power. Witnessing this strange sight, Yexian couldn't help but break into a cold sweat in astonishment. That's insanely overpowered, isn't it? He can charge his own weapons just by hitting them together. See, this guy's smarter than he looks, isn't he? This is no joke! Quickly regaining his composure, he formed a seal with one hand pointed straight at his opponent and unleashed a decisive spell. A golden character for immobilize. A giant inscription materialized out of thin air. It pressed down directly on Juqi's massive body, causing him to freeze for an instant. However, a blazing red corrupt energy erupted, repelling the spell. Yexian frowned, calculating. So the resistance to an immobilization spell is this high for an enemy of his cultivation level. Why don't you give up? He dashed forward, creating a series of afterimages. The six-pronged staff transformed unpredictably, constantly attacking from all directions. The mystical heaven-severing staff technique was executed flawlessly by Yexian. It created dense streaks of green light that surrounded the ferocious chieftain. Juke roared, swinging his mace to create a storm of sand and rock around him to block the lethal strikes from the staff. The mysterious power of earth and the spiritual energy collided, creating loud booms that shook the space. Thick dust billowed high, obscuring even the moon above as large boulders were sent flying. They flew like cannonballs, mercilessly devastating the landscape around the valley. Seeing this, Yexian clicked his tongue with regret. All the attacks from my staff have been completely blocked by those flying rocks. From within the cloud of dust, Juqi charged out with a frenzied expression. He swung his giant mace straight at Yexian's head as a series of sharp stone pillars rose from the ground. Following the rhythm of the mace's strike, they formed a terrifying trap surrounding our young master. He then smashed all the flying boulders towards Yexian, like a raging storm. With excellent reflexes, Yexian immediately retreated to dodge, letting the mace devastate the ground, plowing up shattered rocks that flew everywhere. He continuously backed away, dodging the boulders that rushed towards him. As the attack ended, he turned back and silently assessed his opponent. I thought that hammer had some grand move, but it turns out he's just using its force to smash rocks and send them flying. The power of the rocks smashed by the hammer is ordinary, but their number is strangely large. Suddenly, a giant shadow blotted out the moonlight. The boar chieftain had lifted a boulder as large as a small hill and was bringing it straight down on Yexian's position. But he didn't stop there. Juque frantically stomped his foot and leaped to the edge of the cliff. With both hands, he raised his blazing red twin maces, preparing for a devastating blow with the force of 10,000 soldiers as he slammed them down. The entire cliff face shattered, and thousands of massive blocky boulders were forced up into the air as if they had lost their gravity. A terrifying scene unfolded. A churning storm of boulders surged forward, forming a pitch-black meteor shower that shot towards the valley. Things are getting intense, everyone. He looked up at the sky that seemed to be collapsing. Yexian gripped his six-pronged staff tightly, a rare seriousness flashing in his eyes in the face of the enemy's brutal killing move. He frowned, assessing the critical situation. An attack with this much area coverage won't be easy to dodge. Immediately circulating all the magical power in his body, Yexian brought his hands together and began to spin his magical weapon, creating formless vortexes. The speed of his staff swings was so fast it formed a perfect protective sphere. The crisscrossing streaks of green light frantically deflected dozens of boulders raining down on him. Deafening crashes rang out continuously. The heavens and earth trembled as the giant boulders were crushed to dust the moment they touched Yexian's shield. Viewed from above, the battlefield had now turned into a desolate wasteland, littered with deep craters left by the meteor shower. Amidst the jumbled wreckage, Yexian leaned on his staff and breathed a sigh of relief, his forehead drenched in sweat. It consumed a lot of my magical power, but thankfully I managed to block it all. Wiping away a bead of sweat, he began to consider his next move. That demon was hit by my lightning fire pierce, and was then slammed hard to the ground. Those last few attacks, it must have consumed a great deal of his magical power. He should be exhausted by now. Turning his gaze towards the deep pit, where the pig demon had been standing, Yexian squinted, searching through the thick smoke and dust. Suddenly his pupils contracted in shock. A cold sweat broke out as he discovered a startling fact. He's gone. Did he sneak away while I was blocking that meteor shower? But a cracking sound echoed from right under the sole of his shoe, making Yexian's heart leap. He cried out in alarm. What? A killing intent struck in an instant. A sharp, pitch-black iron spike broke through the ground. It thrust straight up from where he had just been standing. Yexian stared wide-eyed at the storm of sharp spikes sprouting densely from the ground, realizing with shock, earth-to-metal transformation, the air suddenly grew heavy. Hundreds, thousands of gleaming black metal spikes tore through the air, shooting towards Yexian like a disturbed swarm of bees. This time it's truly dangerous, facing a life-or-death moment. Yexian raised one hand to form a seal and chanted an incantation with lightning speed. His eyes shone with spiritual light as he shouted, "Freeze!" The moment the word was spoken, a dazzling, brilliant golden explosion erupted. Carrying with it immense magical power, it spread throughout the area. The immobilization spell enveloped the air, becoming a giant sphere of light that froze the entire storm of iron spikes, just as they were inches away from Ye Xian. Trapped amidst the countless deadly spikes, Ye Xian exhaled sharply, silently, scoffing at the enemy's dirty tricks. I can't believe he had a move like this. All the debris from the rocks I blocked, which scattered all around. He turned all of it into iron spikes with his earth-to-metal transformation technique. He squinted, observing his surroundings, his mind working at full capacity. This melee-type boss is also quite skilled with ranged magic, huh? Now he's using this dense thicket of iron spikes to pin me down. What on earth is he planning? Suddenly the heavy sound of footsteps on dry gravel echoed. A giant dark shadow silently appeared from a blind spot. He felt a chilling, killing intent rush up right beside him, horrified. Ye Xian glanced over, but it seemed to be too late. A heart-wrenching sound of flesh being pierced rang out. Deep red blood spurted out like a fountain. Blending with the black of the sharp spikes stabbing from all directions, the iron pillars pierced through his body. Fresh blood splattered, dyeing the cold space red. Zhu Ke emerged from underground, looking smugly at the battlefield. If I hadn't lost so much vital energy from that sneak attack, I wouldn't have had to hide so carefully and use this paltry long-range magic. The boar chieftain looked at the body impaled on the sharp spikes and let out a sinister chuckle. I hid underground and observed with my divine sense for a long time, confirming that this is your real body, not an illusion. So you finally dared to show your face. You're done for, you treacherous human. Suddenly, the smile on the beast's face stiffened. Its bloodshot eyes widened in horror as it felt the space around it freeze solid. A glowing golden character for immobilize appeared right on the monster's chest. It roared in helplessness. What's happening? Why am I still being hit by the immobilization spell? From the sky, a massive mystical purple formation descended, enveloping everything with the words Violet Void Golden Net Formation glowing within it. Zhu Ke trembled under the suffocating pressure, screaming in despair. This can't be! How can someone who's already dead cast a formation spell? Just then, the corpse on the iron spikes vanished, revealing a staff clamped tightly between the metal points. The beast's eyes were glued to the talismans attached to it, stuck to the staff's body. It suddenly realized they were camouflage talismans. From the shadows, Ye Xian stepped out, his expression calm and a mocking smirk on his lips. The camouflage talisman, combined with the transformation art, was finally enough to lure you out of your hole. Violet lightning crackled around Ye Xian's entire body as he strolled casually through the formation. It also bought me enough time to set this all up. Inside here, even if your cultivation level is high enough to break the immobilization, you'll just be trapped again over and over. I wonder how many of my violet lightning strikes you can withstand. A colossal bolt of purple lightning descended from the heavens, crushing everything below into dust with an earth-shattering explosion. Ding, now that the boss is defeated, it's time to claim my reward. The system immediately reported, Beast Chieftain defeated. Experience points have reached the threshold for the 6th major realm. New leisure skill unlocked spiritual herbology. You may bestow this skill upon a disciple. A disciple who masters it will, upon reaching a high realm of cultivation, be able to grow exceedingly rare spirit herbs and concoct priceless medicinal pills. Along with that came a trove of spoils. An earth gold hammer. Dharma artifact possessing both earth and metal attributes. It can gather power for devastating strikes, control stone, and rapidly refine metals from ore. 1/6 major realm earth attribute beast core, used for refining high-grade spirit pills, and 5 top-grade spirit stones. With the battle over, an exhausted Ye Xian plopped down on a boulder and began to wolf down a steamed bun. He mused, Ye Qifeng's spirit energy buns have a great restorative effect. I need to hurry up and replenish my energy so I can finish cleaning up the aftermath. The scene changes to a few days later in the quiet courtyard of the Taoist temple. A female disciple curiously broke the silence. Master, what happened in Yizhu City after everything? Ye Xian calmly took a sip of tea and began to explain. After the beast chieftain died, more than half of the lesser beasts in the valley fled. The prefect of Yizhu Sun Qian, who was being controlled by Ye Qifeng, immediately surrendered. The reinforcements that Wu Chenggen brought from the imperial court smoothly reclaimed the lost territory and captured the rebel leader Cao Dai. Now those two are being escorted back to the capital. With that, Ye Xian took out the large earth gold hammers and handed them to his female blacksmith disciple with a smile. "Oh, right. The attributes of these hammers should be very useful for your smithing. I'm giving them to you." The girl happily clasped her hands. "Thank you, master." Standing right beside her, the eldest disciple pouted, resting her face in her hands with jealousy. "Master, you play favorites just because the new junior sister is here. And she's cute. You give her all these gifts, but your poor eldest disciple doesn't get a single thing." Seeing her senior's jealousy, the junior sister quickly tried to console her while holding the hammers. "Senior sister, please don't be upset. I only need one of these hammers for my smithing. When I have some free time, I'll forge the other one into a cleaver for you, okay?" Not knowing whether to laugh or cry, Ye Xian waved his hand and a pile of treasures appeared on the stone table. "Who said I didn't have anything for you?" It included essence of wild boar meat, the pig beast core, and a few glittering spirit stones. The eldest disciple picked up the beast core, examining it under the sunlight before shaking her head. "I'll gladly accept the essence of wild boar meat, but this beast core, I don't think you can cook with this directly. It's only useful if you give it to a pill refiner." Ye Xian raised an eyebrow as if it were the most obvious thing in the world and pointed a finger to the sky. "Then I'll just go find another disciple who knows how to refine pills. Problem solved, right?" The eldest disciple propped her chin on her hand, looking at her master with a weary, speechless expression. She couldn't really blame him for his limited knowledge. After all, he was someone who had transmigrated to this world, and he was busy with his cultivation every day. Actually, pill refiners are extremely rare here in the Longyuan Kingdom. She took out a map and began to explain the continent's situation. "Don't be fooled by the fact that the Longyuan Kingdom is the closest to the beast realm, and the nation most frequently invaded by them. The resources needed for pill refining are critically scarce within our borders, which has led to a brain drain of all our talented refiners. They've all gone to the neighboring countries." Ye Xian flinched, sweat pouring down his forehead. "Huh! Are you telling me that the spiritual herbs needed for pill refining are incredibly scarce in our country?" The eldest disciple nodded, confirming the harsh reality. "That's right. Our kingdom's output of spirit herbs is relatively low, even if you find a pill refiner without the right herbs. And there's no way for them to refine any pills." Looking at the vibrant spirit herbs, Ye Xian crossed his arms and wondered, "Then what if we try to buy them from a neighboring country?" The eldest disciple continued, "Our neighbor, the Simo Kingdom, does have abundant resources of medicinal herbs, but for historical reasons, they always restrict their sales to our kingdom." Hearing this, the junior sister frowned indignantly. "So what happens if the Longyuan Kingdom gets overrun by the beast realm? So what, aren't the other nations also getting caught in the crossfire?" The eldest martial sister coldly analyzed their mindset. "They don't care about things like that. They only focus on their immediate interests. They probably even wish they could use the monsters to destroy enemy nations." Despite being suppressed by other countries, Ye Xian's eyes flashed with calculated confidence. "We just need to wait for Liu Yunshu to return from her cultivation and impart the skills of spiritual apothecary to her. Then we can bypass the stranglehold our neighbors have on us." Ye Xian stood with her arms crossed, lost in thought, her gaze distant as she recalled that battle. Even though it was a spontaneous plan, that battle with the monster chieftains was still too risky. Information: Ya Qifeng Kitchen Head. 5th Realm Fire Element. Logistics and Supply. Skills: beneficial cooking buffs, replenishing spiritual food, fire-based swordsmanship. From now on, I'll just rely on my disciples for experience points. I just need to do a good job of allocating resources, mapping out their paths, and ensuring they take each step steadily. 6. Information: Liu Yunshu, Calligraphy Master. 5th Realm Wood Element. Technical Support. Skills: crafting talisman scrolls, specialized in analyzing copying and compiling cultivation techniques. Otherwise, say if we happen to run into an 8th Realm Great Demon that can level a mountain in a single blow, we'd be doomed. And this is Zhao Yuhui, the king of 100 beasts. 5th Realm Water Element. Ensures transportation, summons a beast army, and provides special buffs like a battle roar. Yes, that's right. Building a solid team with different roles is the best strategy. Information Tai Sanyang Blacksmith. 1st Realm Metal Element. Provides equipment. Skills: forging divine weapons and magical artifacts, crafting magical robes and armor. Sitting at the tea table, a curious Tai Sanyang asked, "Master, where are my other two senior sisters?" Yeshen looked up at the clear blue sky and calmly replied, "Those two are working hard on their cultivation elsewhere." The scene changes to a dense forest with towering ancient trees. Zhao Yuhui stood there alone. She thought to herself, "So this is the giant wood forest. You have to get away from the major sect's territories to find an ownerless monster domain like this." A sealing talisman was stuck to a giant tree trunk. She sighed to herself, "That kid master of mine. Being an official at the monster suppression department wasn't for nothing. At least it's useful for providing intelligence." She stretched and neatly tied her hair back into a ponytail, her eyes burning with fighting spirit. "All right then. Time to get ready for a big fight." Suddenly a threatening voice echoed from the shadows. "Who dares trespass in my monster domain?" A group of people emerged, their leader pointing arrogantly. "We the Dao Tian sect have already claimed this monster domain. Who dares to compete with us? Information Fadongji Hall, master of the Dao Tian sect 5th realm." Zhao Yuhui smirked contemptuously and replied with dripping sarcasm, "The Dao Tian sect, you say? You mean the sect that shamelessly steals other people's cultivation techniques and magical artifacts, then claims to have created them." Veins popped on Hall Master Fadongji's face as he cracked his knuckles. "Little girl, I know our sect's reputation could use some improvement, but you, calling us out so bluntly like this, it's making it very hard for this old man to hold back." A subordinate, his face drained of all color, hurriedly leaned in and whispered in his ear, "Hall Master, she seems to be the young lady from the renowned Zhao family of beast tamers. If we clash with her here, the Zhao family will inevitably come looking for us." Fadongji glanced at Zhao Yuhui's retreating back. As she gradually disappeared, he gritted his teeth and said, "We'll just have to let her go for now." Then he let out a sinister chuckle. "Humph. Once she enters the giant wood forest, which is teeming with monsters and demons, what happens next will no longer be up to her." Just as Zhao Yuhui went deeper into the forest, a rustling of leaves was heard. A giant python with blood-red eyes slithered out from behind a tree. The python lunged at an incredible speed, opening its fanged mouth wide, intending to swallow her whole. A determined glint flashed in Zhao Yuhui's eyes. She quickly formed a hand seal, and suddenly a giant panda appeared in front of her, blocking the python's bite with one hand. The panda let out an angry roar and began to take a deep breath. It opened its mouth wide, a blazing flame condensing inside. The panda then spewed a massive pillar of fire towards the python. The pillar of fire shot forward, carrying destructive heat. The flames engulfed the python, incinerating everything in its path. Seeing the python turn to ash, Zhao Yuhui sighed in exasperation. "Seriously." She put her hands on her hips and turned to scold. "The bewildered panda. You burned it to a crisp. What am I supposed to feed little chick now?" Fortunately, she managed to find the great python's monster core that was left behind. "It's a good thing I can at least salvage this monster core, or this would have been a total loss." Fort Infinite Beast. Taming via feeding. As long as she continuously feeds her beasts high-grade monster cores, they can grow indefinitely and break through to new realms. She held the monster core in her hand, letting it fall as she thought to herself. Normally these monster cores would need to be refined into spirit pills by an alchemist. Then one would have to enter seclusion for several months or even years to slowly absorb the spiritual energy inside and attempt a breakthrough. For beast tamers, if they want a stronger companion, they either have to capture a high-level beast and slowly tame it, or go into seclusion to train with it. They absorb spirit pills. But ever since I took him as my master, all I have to do is kill monsters to get experience points. I can just feed the beast cores directly to my companions and they'll grow stronger. At first, when that kid of a master told me he could help me summon a phoenix, I was still a little doubtful. But looking at it now, he's truly possessed of incredible power. The day I summon the phoenix isn't far away now." A pair of blazing red eyes suddenly flashed, snatching the pill before slowly vanishing. A circle of golden light flared, then disappeared. Back with the Dao Heaven sect. A subordinate curiously asked Fop Dung Tik, who was holding an eye-shaped mirror artifact. "Hall Master, how did it go? Have you stolen the technique yet? I hear the technique from this unique bloodline isn't easy to steal." Fop Dung Tik scoffed smugly. "Are you kidding me? With this Dao Heaven mirror of mine, is there any technique that it can't steal? This insignificant little bloodline is nothing." He narrowed his eyes, a cruel smile spreading across his face. This beast-taming art is a rare one. I'll just wait until I've stolen a few more of her techniques. And then I'll just kill her off. After all, it's only when the original owner is dead that the techniques inside the Tao Heaven Mirror can unleash their greatest power.